to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harret Shun Calfunny, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harret Shun Calfunny, As I Learned, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.
ETM Hotel, Rennie, Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into another broadcast from the Master Warrior Clan channel. Today we will be discussing colonialism in African art. Hopefully everybody is up to speed on the video that we did yesterday. That was pretty interesting. However, as you're coming in, please like the show, share the show. Tell a friend that we live on the Master Warrior Clan. Let me see what's going on. We got some people in the chat. Peace, Keisha. Peace to you, Akuma. How y'all doing this afternoon? Peace to everybody that will actually catch the replay as well. Please, share this show. We're going to get back into African traditions, culture, and customs. You'll see that transpiring over the next probably month, maybe. Let me see. I'm almost done with my literature review, and then I got to do some for cross-referencing, and then I got to do some other stuff, and then hopefully I'll be back into my West African traditions and customs, and we'll be able to pull apart some stuff that has taken place or transpired in West Africa that we could learn from, build from, and grow from. Peace to the brothers in UK. Rashad, peace to you. I see you, Chavis, in the building. T'Challa's in the building. Ladies and gentlemen, please like that show, share this show. Let's get this thing out into the people. Also, I don't know if brother Walter Coach is in the building or will catch the replay, but I do want to say to you, brother, happy Heruma Sunefer. That's a happy birthday in Metal Nature. And yeah, man, I hope you're enjoying your day and all that good stuff, right? Anansi, what's good? Everything is everything. What's good? Let me see here. Give me a few minutes. I'm actually trying to share the show. If you ordered anything from Kofi Paisa Research Team that are not the cards, the quiz and educational cards, it's all sent out. Books sent out. The only thing that has not fully been sent out is the quiz and educational cards, because for some apparent reason, a swarm of purchases was made in bulk by a lot of people, and that threw us for a loop. And and the re-up ain't came yet, so we waiting on the re-up, and then we'll get those out there. So Peace Pure, what's good with you? Hope all is well, bro. Keisha, I hope you know what I mean, you're doing all right yourself. Man, it look like we light today. Y'all must be working hard. People must be working hard today. Interesting. All right, but again, do me a favor, because Facebook got me on crazy stuff, but please like the show, share the show, and we're gonna get started here in just a minute. I'm waiting to see if any more of the brothers will join the panel. I know some people were busy, so and I know some people were building. So hopefully we'll get some more brothers on the panel. Um, what did y'all think about yesterday? For everybody that watched the actual video yesterday, right? What did y'all? What was the takeaway from that? In all honesty, what was your takeaway from that? The exchanges between the Africans and the European South Africans that seem to, you know, defend themselves, so to say, and why they're in South Africa. What do you think all of that comes from? This perspective of 1652 was the day they came in and they had the right to the land. Nobody inhabited the land. Like, what do you think about that? I don't know if you saw that, T'Challa, so I won't ask you that question, but I know some people in the chat did see it, so I just wanted to kind of see what they thought of that. Or if you did, I don't know if you did or not.
No, I'm gonna check that out along with Ben's article today. I am familiar with that conversation though, but I do want to check out the video specifically, for obvious reasons.
What up, Rasta? What's good with you, bro? What is good?
Oh yeah, Rasta man, he man, look, peace to you, brother. It was a whole lot of extra going on in one of our videos. I had went back and looked at some of the comments towards the end. A brother was getting out of line. I want to apologize to you for that, bro, because that's not how we do things over here. We not about that life over here. We scholarship only. We don't do the tough talk karate keyboard scholarship. We don't do that. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't, I'm glad you're in the building and that didn't turn you away, because that was uncalled for.
What up, Cedric? Good with you, bro? Yeah, Keenan, I got you, bro. I know you probably listening right now. What's up, Nunu? How you doing? What's up, Stacy? What's good? All right, I see everybody in the building. I'm gonna go ahead and get started now, man. I see that see the crew is popping up. But yeah, again, like the show, share the show. I'm expecting, you know what I mean, the other brothers or somebody to pop in. Oh, no, bro, that ain't me, man. Appreciate the compliment, but that ain't me. I'm just, what up, Thurman? It's a normal guy, yo. Normal guy. All right, so let's get to it. You should be able to see my screen. In full. Let me check and make sure. I don't know who just popped in, but if you could let them in, let them in. All right. Before I get started, though, man, you know what I'm saying? I think that, who is it? Sutek? Sutek and Rock. Hey, man, you want to say anything to people? You want to say anything to the people? You good at what's up?
Nah, just what's up. I'm traveling right now, so.
Okay, cool. So Tepera in the building, ladies and gentlemen. He traveling. All right. So yeah, it's colonialism and African art. So, just to give you a little perspective of what would drive me to even put anything together like this. Well, one of the reasons was yesterday. Because I think that if we deal with something specifically, then we kind of answer the question without even going too far, right? Or going down a rabbit hole with people who have a biased history and talking point that they like to make. So what am I saying? Like, in the video yesterday, when the Europeans actually stated how they came to South Africa in 1652, And they were talking about people were migrating and the Bantu was running out the Khoisan and they were trying to make these inferences and influences of things. That's their argument. They came there, they did their own digging, mining, they got rich off of it, they built their own wealth, they segregated themselves. Apartheid was put together to teach the indigenous Africans that were on the land, who are from there, to depend on themselves, create their own institutions and things of that nature. However, see, the beauty of history is that we can eliminate the bias and we can read it right down the middle. We can be unbiased in this research. We can forget all of it. We can forget the fact that we can't really forget the fact mentally that we are of African ancestry and our ancestors come directly from West Africa. And we know the plight and our struggle, but they left things behind. Not only did they express themselves in song and dance, they also expressed themselves in art. And when you're talking about African culture, when you're talking about African customs, when you're talking about African traditions, art is a big emphasis of that. It plays one of the major roles in understanding what's going on. So I put this together for us to take a look back into history using art. I ain't gonna bore you to death. It actually should be cool. It's a learning experience for everyone. Before I do get started, though, I do see Brother Sutek and hopped on the panel, so I'm gonna yield the floor to Brother Sutek and let him, speak his piece. If he got something to say, if he ain't busy.
Yo, peace to the chat. Peace to my brothers on the panel. Share Lafayette Knee. Make sure y'all please like and share the show. It's your brother Sutek. Appreciate y'all for coming through, man. And I'm interested to see what our brother Sean got up his sleeve. So yeah, man, make sure y'all like and share the show, please. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. So let's get it cracking. Of course, I'm gonna hit you with the copyright disclaimer because I am going to play a video that's not related to our channel. Even though we have some cultural perspectives and things of this nature, and we really don't get flagged for the videos, I do want to put the disclaimer up there. So under the Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. We're using the last part of that: teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing.
In 1897, another piece of British gunboat diplomacy came to an end. Another African city sacked, the arrest and execution of warlords, and the lifetime exile of a king. The choice of Benin for a punitive expedition was not entirely unrelated to its history. Since the 15th century, Benin had an almost mythical reputation. Using the pretext of a trade boycott, the British invaded. When they forced their way inland, they found an abandoned city full of shrines and sculptures of astonishing quality. Hundreds of bronze plaques were hacked off the walls of the royal palace. These were brought back as booty, along with thousands of art objects and antiquities, which comprised the whole cultural achievement of the Benin people, stretching back 4 centuries. Amongst these were 160 bronze death masks of the previous kings, in effect, a chronological record dating back to the 12th century. Disastrously, no attempt was made to catalogue objects or to record where they were found. Everything was torn from its cultural context. For all their assumptions of racial superiority, the British in Benin did their best to destroy one of the greatest artistic achievements of Africa. And as other countries followed suit, the systematic pillaging of African art became one of the few perks of colonial life. And after the colonials came the collectors and the dealers. It has been open season in Africa for over a century. 2/3 of what is called tribal art, but are in fact the cultural property of third world countries, have been looted during the last 20 years. And if we confine ourselves only to West Africa, the regions plundered include the Akan civilization of Ghana, the Nok region of Nigeria, the Sao culture of Cameroon and Chad, the Koma of Benin, and the inland Niger Delta of Mali. Half the countries of West Africa have had their past recently plundered. Dominated by its mosque, Djenné lies at the center of the Niger Delta, the last medieval city in Africa. By the 16th century, Djenné was one of the principal intellectual and market centers of the Sahel, rivaling its neighbor Timbuktu. Djenné's growth coincided with the rise of Islam in West Africa and the death of old Djenné. For only 2 miles separate modern Djenné from the ghost town of Djenné-Djenno, abandoned over 500 years ago. In 1977, the first extensive archaeological dig took place at Djenné-Djenno. Undertaken by an American, Professor McIntosh, the dig unearthed traces of a highly organized, sophisticated city-state. Here was evidence of one of the earliest African civilizations. From the start of the 3rd century BC, the city had, by AD 800, grown to support many thousands. Unfortunately, the publicity surrounding these finds had a side effect: a swarm of illegal diggers. Sold to local dealers and escalating in price, large numbers of exquisite bronzes and terracottas started to appear on the international art market, particularly through one country, Belgium.
Eh bien, c'est par un pur hasard.
It was really by chance. I had a friend, a collector who was also a dealer well known in Brussels, called Willy Mesdac. He was desperate to buy a Cameroonian mask, a Bacha mask, but he didn't have the money. However, he'd made a small collection of terracottas, and he said to me, "If you buy the Bacha mask from me, I'll swap some of my terracottas. Although they're not fashionable at the moment, we should make a collection together as an investment." I accepted the idea, and that's how it started.
At what time was that?
At the time terracottas started coming out of Africa, about 15 years ago. Yeah, 15 years ago.
De Grun's collection is one of the largest in the world. We've managed to trace over 200 pieces in various private collections and museums around the world. However, of these 200, only 8 have been excavated legally, 6 dating from the 13th century and 2 dating from the 12th century. And of these 8 legal pieces, 3 are on display at the National Museum of Mali.
This, I think, is one of the most remarkable pieces in the museum. It comes from the site of Djenné-Djenno and was discovered by the American archaeologists, the McIntoshes, and it dates from the 13th century.
What is the scientific value of this piece?
It's a statue that has great value because it's the first time that an object like this has been discovered in an archaeological context. Generally, objects are pillaged, and that excludes any chance of scientific analysis of their origins.
And this one?
This is a terracotta mask that we acquired from a dealer in Mopti. It's a quite exceptional one because when one looks at African culture generally, particularly in Mali, the masks are almost always made of wood. Here, unusually, is one in terracotta.
Yes, but how was this obtained?
Without doubt, the object was pillaged. It was bought in Mopti from an antique dealer who got it from an illegal digger on one of the archaeological sites.
That is to say that, although it's a special piece, we know nothing about it.
Yes, exactly. The only thing we know with any certainty, if the dealer from whom I got this piece can be believed, is the site, i.e. the rough provenance. The dealer I bought the piece from said that it came from a site about 7 miles from Jenne.
So, for the rest, nothing.
No, absolutely nothing.
No dating, no context where the pieces were found, nothing.
Right.
And most of the objects that one finds coming from Mali are pillaged?
Exactly. Generally speaking, the statuettes of Jenne Jeno are extremely well known in Europe. You have well-known collections. One thinks particularly of the collection of Count de Grun and Madame Dumenil. You have superb collections of Jenne Jeno statuettes, but there's no information about them because they were acquired in circumstances that are curious. The collectors and dealers are less than scrupulous. They have little or no respect for our laws.
What is the legal situation?
At the moment, the legal situation is that Mali has enacted a certain number of laws to protect its cultural heritage. These laws are very clear on the subject of archaeological sites and the selling of cultural treasures. Excavating archaeological sites is completely forbidden without authorization from the government.
That's to say, scientific and legally authorized excavations.
Yes, by professional archaeologists who come to us and discuss their projects. And apart from these projects, all forms of digging are illegal.
Toute forme de fouille est illégale.
Il y a un risque physique pour...
There is a physical risk for European dealers. If they're not careful, they can simply be put into prison. I believe there are some who've had that problem. It's badly organized locally, and there's also a blacklist. If you don't take measures to protect yourself, you can have a lot of trouble.
I'm well aware that foreign dealers and collectors who come here to Mali know under what conditions they work. And even if they don't know our laws exactly, they know nonetheless that the legal situation forbids them to operate. And morally, the real problem is we have a situation where they are basing their wealth on the theft of cultural treasures from a country that doesn't have the means to protect its heritage.
J'hésite un petit peu entre la colère.
I hesitate a little between anger and indignation, or rather despair. It's true that we live in a poor country with a cultural heritage that is extremely rich and without the means to put it to proper use.
Yes, that's the situation in many countries in Africa, as well as in Latin America.
Exactly. The situation of many so-called third world countries. On one hand, we have the Western world, the rich world, full of collectors, people of great wealth, who stimulate and even generate a market in African antiquities, and who, on the other hand, through their intermediaries, i.e. their local dealers and fellow countrymen, contribute to the pillage of our archaeological sites in a ruthless way.
De façon extrêmement scandaleuse, les sites archéologiques de ces pays-là.
Enabling a few to make huge profits at the expense of the national heritage of many destroys world history. We agonize about the destruction of wildlife in these countries, but do nothing to help them protect their past. That, among others, Britain, France, Belgium, and the USA have refused to become signatories to the 1970 UNESCO Convention and have turned a blind eye to the white-collar crime flourishing in their art markets speaks volumes about their attitudes to poorer nations.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Find that quite interesting. So let's continue. All right, so here's our outline. Of course, intro we just did. Research questions, definition, hypothesis, evidence, conclusion, sources. This is going to be all visual. It ain't gonna be a lot of words. So what is colonialism? And what impact does colonialism have on African culture? Let's deal with the first question. Colonialism is where one country assumes political control over another, often by establishing colonies and generally with the aim of economic dominance. In the process of colonization, colonizers may impose their religion, language, economics, and other cultural practices on indigenous peoples. The foreign administrators rule the territory in pursuit of their interests, seeking to benefit from the colonized regions, peoples, and resources. It is associated but distinct to imperialism. I want y'all to think about what colonialism really means. And then I want you to put Africa under a deeper microscope. A cultural, I want you to look at it from a cultural perspective. I want you to look at it from a traditionalist perspective. I want you to look at it from a customized perspective, meaning that I want you to remove any particular piece of foreign entity into Africa and analyze it. It's going to be hard to do because today, the continent of Africa is infused with different cultural beliefs, practices, and others that are inserted there for a particular reason, meaning that the actual African identity is less dominant in its overall presence among people's worldview. So the little remnants of true African traditions and culture and customs are pocketed. And those are the things that we should appreciate. But at the same time, we should bring forth because we're trying to rid colonialism from the continent, and we're trying to rid racism, white supremacy from this worldview or world perspective. So that's the challenge that we actually have as members of the Master Warrior Clan and Kofi Pi Psi research team. So hypothesis, colonialism was a tool used by European powers to control the narrative of the African perspectives by demonizing African culture, traditions, and customs. Once Europeans established a way to erase an identity and have people take on another, this transition began to be reflective in West Africans' art. Up first, Portuguese explorers. This image that you see here is on the Benin mask of the Edo people. You know that mask that you can pull up anytime? Well, the crown, if you look at the crown very carefully, this is the crown. This is the freaking crown. And on the crown of the Edo people, that famous Benin mask, it has the early encounters with Europeans who are often recorded in African art. It's telling us to look closely at the mask above. Do you see faces? These represent Portuguese explorers with beards and hats, flanked by mudfish, who visited Benin Kingdom along the west coast of Africa in the late 1400s. These explorers began to collect ivory, which they referred to as white gold. Now, I want you to think, Benin mask. What do you want better? Mask right there. But here we go. This is the mask that I'm talking about. I didn't want to give you the whole mask. I only wanted to give you pieces of it. But here you go. These are Portuguese faces. The 1400s, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Back to our regular scheduled program. Yeah, we should know that, man, Zane. Colonialists at their best, meeting among the elders and the people in the community. You know how they actually do it. Sorry for the fuzzy picture, but you get the idealistic of it. Here we have basically the king and the colonist, right? I don't know why the people on the left-hand side look more brownish, but I do believe because of the type of wood that this was carved out of, that they gave them the complexion. And on the right-hand side, the king of the area, he's more darker, so as to justify basically colonialism in the time. Now, what many people see this as is a symbol of indirect rule. If you're very familiar with colonialism and Lagarde and other people that, you know, French and the British, they used indirect rule, where you had other colonizers using direct rule. The French and the British made it a habit of indirect rule, meaning that they will deliver the message to the man in charge, you know, the chief, the king of the people, whatever. He was in charge of making sure that all his people fell in line with what the British wanted to happen or the French wanted to make happen. And if that didn't happen, it came back down on the king, and then they will give new leadership a chance that would follow their instructions. So if a king did buck and didn't want to do whatever the French or the British wanted to do, they just would raise someone up in that position that was more so pretty much what some Africans say is just dummies, you know, for them. All right, this is the BBO. So we're gonna go around West Africa. This is taken from the Juju house at the time of the Aero expedition. This was taken out of the Juju house. All right. Now, the action directed against the Igbo oracle of Ibim Kukapi in the Arochukwu, I always say it, was probably the largest military campaign in the British conquest of southern Nigeria and required 4 military columns, which crisscrossed the southern half of the Igbo land over a period of months. Now, this particular artistry, as you can see, it symbolizes something. It's going somewhere. This has to do everything with colonization at that time. Oh, Queen Victoria. I know everybody's saying Queen Victoria show up, right? Yeah. I see you in the chat too, boy. I did that for you. I knew you was gonna show up in the chat. So let me do this for a BBO. And here you go in the chat. What's good? But yeah, man. Queen Victoria shows up. What influence did Queen Victoria have on West Africans? Crazy. Some other figurines in the area. Of course, you can make this out. This has to do with golf. This is time of the British rule, right? You got the caddies out there. The Africans were the caddies. The British playing golf. I know the back's to us, but it's all good. Here's a doorway. Look real closely on the doorway. This is detailed of the Palace door in lintel of 1910. All right, this is from the Yoruba. But if you look very closely, second column, right-hand side, top right, you see 2 Africans carrying something on their heads, and it looks to be like a colonel or someone of colonial rule, just sitting and chilling while he's being carried by these, you know, people. And then if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of this doorway, you know, they got their hands behind their back. They're captured by someone. This is reflecting some of the things that this particular artist was seeing. Now, you also can see this in the British Museum for our people in the UK. Everyone should be familiar. Well, not everyone should be familiar with this, but some people who probably watched I think it's like a 5 or 6 minute video that I actually have on the Masu Warrior Clan dealing with the Asafo flags. and the Asafo flags. So this piece, the piece number is number 8. A colonization depicts an African man with a rope around his neck, carrying an ungainly package on his back that holds a jumble of colonial flags, ivory tusk, and coconut tree. See the flags on the back? Those are all the colonists, right? A British figure is leading him with a pass of a graveyard of a little white cross to the foot of the train track, upon which sits a mythological vehicle belching smoke and inhabited by the looks like a small dinosaur inside a camouflage tank. Now, the image is evocative and readable in its own right, but it is also instantly recognizable to anyone familiar with the practice of Asafo flag making and its history as a form of cultural resistance. More figurines, of course. We've seen this a lot in the Yoruba culture, where they will have these colonists or colonizers always chilling on a boat while everybody else behind them is actually doing the work to get them where they need to go along the Niger River and the other rivers along the way. This lidded salt cellar in Sierra Leone shows the resemblances of Portuguese people in the 15th and 16th century. If you look close down at the bottom, you'll see some people. But if you zoom in a little bit closer, there's some pets. You'll see the snakeheads, which is very unique in Sierra Leone, as far as, you know, when you're dealing with certain parts of the actual culture. But around the sculpture, it also has some influences of another figurine here. This one's a little confusing because you have pretty much like a chief, a Oba, right? It says it down at the bottom, and then a colonizer on the to our right. The figurines left. So this is Yoruba art. So there's 2 painted wooden figures depicted Europeans in Africa and Yoruba people, and that's the top of the, you know, the first half of the 20th century. I see you, PB. All right, so here's another figurine set here. You have, this is interesting. You have the colonizer sitting in the chair. You have the African brother in front of the colonizer sitting in the chair, serving in the colonizer's army. Behind him, you have the what would be a colonizer hugging someone of some similar status. Could be the colonizer's wife. I don't even think it really mattered at that point. I found this to be interesting. This one's for T'Challa. This is the colonizer's drum from the Akan. This is the colonial African Akan drum. It features colonizers. Look at it. All the way around the board. That is a European woman. And then there, the army guys are behind her. And if you look at this glowing green thing around the head, at the very tip of it, it shows a cross. And this drum is, you know, it sits among the Akan. More ivory or tusk. Right here, this is 16th century Edo and Yoruba. You know, you see the Portuguese man in the front. The actual Portuguese man is holding something of stature, or what possibly could be a statue. You see the horses above the head and below. This is pretty much someone coming with missionary work. I'll just say that. This is also in a museum. Lagarde, figurine of Lagarde is also in the West African Museum. As you can see, he's one of the indirect rulers. You know, he's pretty much famous for that, actually. That indirect rule. He's a colonizer. I think this might be the last one, but this is the triple crucifix found in the Congo among the Congo people. We should all be familiar with this. We all know what took place in the Congo. You know, and this is that conversion that actually takes place. Them accepting Christianity, not by blood, but by commitment to trade and so on and so forth. So this is inhabited around the 16th, 17th century and so on. But this is the Triple Cross. Conclusion. The impact of colonialism played an important role in the erasing of the African identity as a whole, even though certain elements of African culture, customs, and traditions were held sacred. When the European first stepped foot into West Africa, it became clear that the presence would be inserted into the minds of African artists. And there's your sources. You could pause that, clip that, do some more digging. But that's pretty much it right there for that. So I wanted to bring that to you guys, ladies and gentlemen, and discuss that. Let me try to catch up with the chat, see what's going on, if I can answer any questions. I see one question in particular. It's a little off topic, she says. But if it's something in placenta that prevents the baby from getting COVID, could they possibly use it as an ingredient in the vaccine? No. Nah, what was shown in the placenta actually regarding the antibodies are shown in the placenta. So like if someone received the vaccine, the antibodies are, yeah, see Cedric in the chat. So I really didn't have to answer it. Cedric's in the Caribbean, but he deals with this. He deals with the science as well. This is his field of study. This is his profession. So if you if you you can ask away, Cedric will catch it. But T'Challa, what you got to say about that Akan drum?
Man, Zane done already said it. Make it need to be turned into a water barrel. You know what I'm saying? Like from speaking from a West African point of view when it comes to drums, bro. Putting a foreign person, like I'm gonna say this like this first. I'm gonna slow this down all the way. In Mali, their djembes don't have Nigerians on them. They don't have Yoruba people carved on their djembes. So it's very deep for them to have in the Akan, tradition, to have that in their culture in Ghana. We know why, but I'm saying that to say even we don't represent other people on our instruments like that because that instrument belongs to that particular people. So we don't even put we don't even do that with other Africans. Like the masquerades in West Africa are specific to those people in that region, right? So you don't see Shaka Zulu's face on a masquerade along the coast of Guinea, West Africa. You won't see that. You don't see Sur people depicted on other drums outside of their culture. Like that, it doesn't go like that.
But the white on there. So what you gotta say about the white? The white on there. What you gonna say about the white?
The white around your lip. It was a good build though, bro. Like, yeah.
Pure crazy. Y'all talked about this brother yet? Zulu, the Mbanza. Nope, we haven't. Nah, we haven't, Sadiq. Wanna read something from African scholar Ayadu Bahan, his African perspectives on colonialism. He says, it's page 1, chapter 1. He says the most surprising aspect of the imposition of colonialism on Africa were its suddenness and its unpredictability. By as late as 1880, there were no real signs of indications of this phenomenal and catastrophic event. On the contrary, an overwhelming majority of the states and polities of Africa were enjoying their sovereign existence, and their rulers were in full control of their own affairs and destinies. Indeed, Africa had experienced a series of far-reaching revolutions during the first 8 decades of the 19th century, and by 1880 was in a mood of optimism and seemed poised for a major breakthrough on all fronts. But by 1880, old Africa appeared to be in its dying throes, and a new and modern Africa was emerging. And then he goes on to say, in this opening chapter, I shall analyze this internal dynamics, which were not only economic and political, but above all social and intellectual. I shall paint a picture of what Africa was on the eve of colonial conquest and occupation as a result of these internal dynamics. And I shall analyze the mood of Africans as articulated by their principal spokesmen, namely their traditional rulers and leaders. Real quick, I had said this the other day on an actual show where I said when you hear about Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, you should immediately think a few things: slavery, politics, and trade. So with the influence of either of those religions that come into any part of an African country, religion, slavery, trade. This was a political gesture, a political move, a ploy to colonize us. Yeah, control. Well, when you create a political and religious system, you're going to automatically control the narrative. Yeah, you gotta control the narrative. Yeah, I think Ben may have said something about him before, but I have not. So when I say no, Sadiq, I'm saying no, I have not. But it's so much stuff that's going around and people writing books in secrecy now and all that. You don't know what's gonna come out. People writing articles. What up, Teddy? Yeah, last night, yeah, that was crazy. I don't know. I mean, for everybody that's actually watching the chat, I know there's more people that are watching it but not commenting. But if you watched last night's video, this is not for the panel, but if you watched last night's video, put a 1 in the chat. Because we know who have, we know some people who haven't. T'Challa said he hadn't been able to watch it. But put a 1 in the chat because I want to see if enough ones appear. It's very important that y'all watch that video from me last night, man. I promise you. It's not really a whole 2 hours. It's you got the first section of it, and then after that, we just was building on stuff. So it's not. I don't expect anybody to watch that. I wanna give you another quote, same book, but from Osei Bansu, the Ashantian. Says, now, said the king after a pause, I have another palaver, and you must help me talk it. A long time ago, the great king liked plenty of trade, more than now. Then many ships came, and they brought ivory, gold, and slaves. But now he will not let the ships come as before, and the people buy gold and ivory only. This is what I have in my head. So now tell me truly, like a friend, why does the king do so? His Majesty's question, I replied, as connected with the great palaver, which my instructions did not authorize me to discuss. I had nothing to say regarding the slave trade. So this was a point of confusion. It continues. Taking up on my observation, he remarked, the white men who go to council with your master and pray to the great God for him do not understand my country, or they would not say the slave trade was bad. But if they think it bad now, why did they think it good before? And he says it just like that, so it's verbatim. Is not your law an old law, the same as the Cramo Muslim law? Do you not both serve the same God, only you have different fashions and customs? Cramos are strong people in fetish, and they say the law is good because the great God made the book. So they buy slaves and teach them good things which they knew not before. If the great king would like to restore this trade, it would be good for the white man and for me too. He said, I urged the impossibility of the king's request, promising, however, to record his sentiments faithfully. Well then, said the king, you must put down in my master's book all I shall say, and then he will look to it. Now he is my friend, and when he sees what is true, he will surely restore that trade. I cannot make war to catch slaves in the bush like a thief. My ancestors never did so. But if I fight a king and kill him when he is insolent, then certainly I must have his gold and his slaves, and the people are mine too. Do not the white kings act like this? Remember, this is the Shantian. He's pretty much saying why he's involved in the activities that he's involved in, and if the slave trade was restored, how his behavior would continue. He was clearly confused and led astray actually about his actions, because in his mind he was justified, because do the white people not act like that too? That's what he's saying. He's trying to emulate them. Yes, yeah, Susan crazy. I ain't mean to bring that back up. Susan, both of them was crazy, but I knew Susan was gonna piss y'all off. Anybody that watched that video, I knew Susan was gonna get y'all. I just knew it. Like, wait till they hear Susan. Yeah, Cujo, it was last night. You may be familiar with it, bro, but if you're not familiar with it, I dare you to watch it. It ain't that long. The video says like 2 hours, but we only talking about the first half of the video, so it's not gonna be long. I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you a sample. I can do that. Let me give you a sample. I want to deal with Susan. Put Susan up. Susan ruffle y'all feathers. Let me share my screen. Let me give y'all. I ain't gonna play it all.
The most certainly are. How could they be objective about African Negroes while they are prejudiced against American Negroes?
You got any prejudices? Oh, I think I've got some pretty large prejudices. I think I'm very prejudiced against the foreign press, particularly the American press, because I've come up against a lot of discrimination myself while I've been here. As a South African, everywhere I go, particularly in the schools, and the moment I mention that I'm from South Africa, I'm discriminated against in the sense that, well, the picture in South Africa, the situation has been so badly distorted and so exaggerated because racial news is sensational news. And so journalists have so distorted the picture in South Africa that when I come over here, I'm looked down upon. And I've really felt this discrimination. I haven't been treated as just an individual and a human being. And I feel that the press is responsible for this.
Well, I've been wanting to ask you a question for a long time. When we all came here, you just took to me. You like me very much, I can see, and I like you. But I know you are a South African, and I am an African. But why is it that out here you are very friendly towards me, but down in South Africa, you don't do the same towards the Negroes that are living there? Can you tell me?
Well, it's the whole setup. I mean, South Africa, we have a pattern of life which is different to any other country in the world, because you have the white population, and which came to the country in 1652, and they are much more highly developed, coming from Europe with European backgrounds and traditions, and they have developed the country and have developed a highly civilized community, whereas the Negroes, the Bantu as we call them in Africa, in South Africa, is primitive, on a very primitive level. And the barrier in South Africa isn't so much color as civilization and economically.
Excuse me, on that point.
Generations and generations. Well, I won't say that.
Oh my gosh, dang it, man, the commercials.
We naturally, because we're a different ethnical group, we're not Africans in the sense that the Negroes and other groups have actually originated in Africa. But I consider South Africa my homeland, my fatherland, and I always will. And there is a misconception that exists. Most people think that the white settlers came to South Africa and took the land from people who oh no, it is not, and I'll prove it to you, who came to South Africa and took it away as the whites came here to America and took it away from the indigenous occupants. In 1652, when the first white settlers arrived at the Cape, the Bantu, as they are now known, the Negroes in South Africa, were still coming down from equatorial Africa, migrating. And it's a fact that they had not yet entered what is now known as South Africa, the borders of South Africa. The only indigenous occupants in Africa, South Africa at that time, were the Bushmen, and they were exterminated by the Bantu coming down.
Excuse me, Susan, on that point, against these Africans, you call them? Yes.
I don't know where you get your historical facts from. I really
I
don't.
get my historical fact from, I think, is it Mr. Trevelyan? He's from British history. That's far
Mr.
better
George
than...
Trevelyan knows nothing then, and I'll say that. Because it so happens that these penniless whites, as you call them, didn't come out because they didn't have homes or because of any kind of persecution. They were sent out as officials of the Dutch East India Company to establish a refreshment station for ships passing around passing around the bottom of the Cape. Just as the Dutch settlers were sent out to America by the Dutch West India Company to settle and to make a refreshment station here. Now, I think if you had to turn around to those Dutch settlers who came out and said that they came out because they were penniless, they'd be just as indignant as I am. And as you say that the white settlers came and pushed the Bantu back,
yes,
it's a fact that the whites went into the interior of Africa and didn't come into contact never even saw a Bantu until 1795, which was practically 100 years, more than 100 years after they had arrived in South Africa.
How did you have the Zulu War? What brought it about?
The Zulus had already, by the time, I think you must have a look at a map. Zululand is very far from the Cape, where these people arrived. And in 100 years, within 100 years, after the arrival of the white settlers, the Zulus had by that time, the Zulus are a part of the Bantu group, had already come down to Natal. And then you've got the two groups, the one coming from the north, the one coming from the south, and they met. And that's where you get the Zulu War.
It was...
All right, so Susan confuses Africans overall. She tries to make distinctions and call certain the Negroes, right, from the West. You got to watch it. You got to watch it. But Susan separates the Khoisan and calls the Khoisan something and Bantu something. See, this is why I don't play the Bantu game. I don't play that game because When you heard all three Africans speak, they made clearly distinctions. And the sister that was right next to Susan said, I'm an African, you're a South African, as if there was a clear difference. She said basically everybody on the panel was African, but Susan's a different type of an African. She's a South African, pretty much a colonizer. She don't belong in Africa. I remember arguing that with some people. I remember arguing that. But
hey Sean.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's that conversation of what makes an African.
Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm. We're back to that.
Go ahead. I ain't want to cut you, Bill.
No. I was saying we back to that. But that's my point, is that they don't see her as the same as they are. They clearly know that they're African, but they also make cultural distinctions based on location. You had one from pretty much Ghana, but he says Gold Coast. You had another one from Nigeria, rather north or south. And then you had an Ethiopian. They didn't even have anyone from the central or from Congo. But they will clearly make the distinction because all three of them looked at Susan like, you know, and said, I'm prejudiced against whites. They don't belong here. Y'all do realize this thinking is still, yes. Salida, if you, Hickman, if you watched yesterday's show, yes, that was the reason for it. But most importantly, that was, you know, one of the influences of us, or me, actually doing that, you know, just an artsy presentation today. I didn't want to make it long. I want to keep it brief, but I wanted to make sure that people understood that when all else fails, our brothers and sisters and ancestors artistically express themselves. And this is how we know that white people or Europeans were foreign to the land. And people like Susan, it's crazy. Khalik was over there. He said, excellent show, bro. Keep running. All right. Appreciate that, Khalik. Khalil. My bad. I said Khalik. Khalil. But that is the show that I just put in the chat from last night. Right there. Yeah, Susan out of her mind. Is that Kofi? That let me know Kofi done watched it. He said he was gonna watch it. Susan told y'all that they came there in 1652 when nobody in the area. The Bantu was running out the Khoisan, and they came. They built South Africa. They mined the gold. They mined for the gold and the diamonds themselves. They didn't have to go in caves for the diamonds. The diamonds was on the land. That's what she said. Yeah, I got both links to those individuals, but you really ain't even gotta watch the links that's in the description. You just gotta you just hit the play button. And I intentionally did that because before you gotta get their train of thought. Like this is a year, these two debates are a year apart, and they basically, the South Africans are saying the same thing. And this is why it's important for, you know, us to defend our African traditions, our African customs, and our African culture. We have to defend it. And this is one of the reasons why we talk about art on this channel, is because through art, our ancestors expressed themselves, and we knew that these people were foreign to the land. We can go all the way back to rock art. We can go all the way back to ancient Kemet with the Table of Nations. You know what I'm saying? Not the Tomb of Seti I, but also Seti II. We can deal with, Ramesses II. We can deal with both of them, right? We can deal with the Table of Nations because the Remich depicted the foreign people to their land. They told you which direction that they came from. This was nothing. You see this in African art all throughout. Excuse me. African educational systems have been teaching this kind of rhetoric for centuries. I wouldn't even say African educational systems because African Americans, I've heard African Americans and several of them have argued me up and down in my chat talking about the Bantu ran off the Khoisan and blah, 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 blah. I'm mad at the Bantu for what they did to the Khoisan. Like, it was people literally arguing. I'm sitting over here and I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, they did this, they did that. I'm like, man, Africans are very tribal people. What do you mean? But yeah, Susan took it there. I wish I had another part of Susan, but she don't show up no more. Susan is Karen now. Susan is Karen in America. Yeah, no. That was basically for you, Cujo. You know what I'm saying? It was somebody else asking for the video too. So if you already saw it, ain't no need. But if you saw both of them, because it's two videos. It was a white dude and then it was Susan. But Susan's more memorable because she was more argumentative. Even though the white dude was argumentative at first. But as soon as they interject religion into the discussion with him, he ain't say a word. And the Gold Coast, Nigerian, and Northern Nigerian and Ethiopian, they argued over Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They argued over it. And the South African dude, he just sat back in his chair and didn't say a word about religion. Zero, zilch. He was mute. That in itself, to me, spoke more volumes than anything. Because he sat there and didn't say a word while those three brothers argued about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Yeah, 1956, 1957.
That's exactly what they do to this day. They'll sit there and they will watch our videos on whatever platform, and we arguing about being indigenous over here. We arguing about how Africa had Christianity before the Europeans came in, and we got our different Kemetic, Ethiopian, Orthodox, Amharic Bible, and we'll do all of that. And it'd be mainly a lot of, like you said, African Americans, us over here, still living an African experience on the planet with residue from the continent. But we are different people over here. And we have to study just as much as the people on the continent have to learn their history and learn who they've been before, like the national language has changed to English or French and all of that kind of stuff. Everybody in Africa don't do drum and dance, and everybody in China don't do kung fu. When we born, everything has to be learned and shown to you. You're not born just learning how to play the drum. Like, you probably have some instinctive move your hands and have some basic rhythm, but you have to learn each song and dance like everybody else. And they will watch us argue over religion, watch us pay our tithes, watch us do all this other stuff, and try to connect it to this our stuff, Blackology. We had everything. We invented everything. Doing the same thing the Europeans do, imposing their culture and whitewashing the world. It's sad. Pure Black says she dressed like a Cub Scout.
Man, yeah. It did. Yeah, I told Sutek like I'm not. Sutek had said I'm the Nigeria dude from the Gold Coast dude. He wasn't going. He was going that hard at Susan. He was on Susan.
Man. Oh, that's what y'all was talking about in the back chat. See, yeah, I gotta go back and just watch y'all show yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Cujo.
Yeah,
Rhythm is absolutely learned. Right. I'm talking about instincts to move your hands up and down. Like in West Africa, we beat on the pots and pans before we get our first djembe. That's what we doing. So we instinctively would move. Like I was moving my hands in the womb, like nonstop. I was moving my hands and feet in the womb. So that is what I mean by instincts. But yes, absolutely. As a musician, my hands are calloused. Right. You have to learn how to play and be in time with everybody. Absolutely.
Cujo just mad he can't play the drum. Because he's from New York. He's from the East Coast.
Oh, man.
He said, Cedric said somebody gave Susan a crack pipe. Yo, she was going crazy, yo. She was going crazy. But let me see, man, before we wrap up, man, I ain't wrapping up, but we got some people in the building. Y'all gotta check that out. Y'all gotta check that out. If you haven't checked that out, again, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. For whoever missed it, you need to understand what's going on there.
Sonny
that
asked,
was
oh, go ahead, my bad.
Go ahead, go ahead. Sonny asked what?
No, I was trying to catch his question because the chat moving.
You have to scroll up.
He says, so moving in the womb is synonymous with being rhythmistic. Well, I don't know about that word rhythmistic, but I know what you mean. Here's what I mean. In the womb, babies move, right? They're moving. You move around in the womb. You got life. You full of life. You moving. What I'm saying is, my mom told me that I was moving like a lot nonstop, right? When a woman is bearing a child, she come put your hands on her belly and she wants you to rub her belly and you feel that child moving, right? When you come out the womb, what you do is going to reflect what you've been doing those early years of your life and what is in your DNA to do, because maybe my mom roller skated and was a dancer and moved around, and people in my family were very artistic and moved around. And in my blood as a West African descendant, we damn sure coming to America, like for real. That is exactly what we were doing. That is exactly the drums, exactly the dances. Like I know these people. You see what I'm saying? Can call them people up that was in the movie because that's what we do. So by that notion, we're rhythmic people because we're doing what you know what I'm saying, what we're used to doing. You drum and dance all your life, your kids gonna more than likely come out trying to do some of the sorts. So I'm not getting pseudo. I'm just speaking facts on behavior and what a living being and organism is inclined to do based on what's in its DNA because of what its parents and ancestors did, right? So certain athletes like Bron kids, right? Yeah. People that take after what their parents do on a physical level, they typically exceed and they tend to, you know what I mean, show early signs of that in childhood. So by that notion, yes, you can demonstrate that you're going to be doing something with your hand. And when you're always dancing, like Black people do, dance when we eat, dance when we waiting on something, singing, humming, grandma always humming while she cooking and stirring the pot. It's in us.
What was the death total of their occupation? I don't know. They teach their youth to be demigods and they are masters of the universe. You can see it in Susan. Yeah, Khalil's correct. conversation, you know, attention to those behaviors from those people, because they talk at you and down at the same time. And I think that has to happen. Do you think you should learn about which country you invaded? Oh, okay, hold up. So here you go. So I want to give y'all this one. And I know y'all ain't seen this one, but it's gonna be a little. It's gonna be a little. And then I'm a rap. But I just want to, you know what I mean? I want to kind of give people a segue into this. I'm trying to get through the first commercial though. All right, hold up. Second. Let me get my screen shared. Y'all about to have a good time with this one here. All right, we ready?
What does the word American mean to a Brazilian?
Americans have a way of treating us as if we were an American colony, and we certainly don't like it.
To an Ethiopian?
Some, not many, consider the Americans as the Italians just because they are white, and they have this complete hatred for the Americans.
To a South African?
The dawning of a new day. And yet I fear the famous words of Spengler. After the highest point is reached, decline begins.
To an Italian?
It often means people with no culture and the childish
we want, presented by the New York Herald Tribune Forum for High School. It features teenagers from 34 countries from all over the earth, together in unrehearsed discussion of some of their common problems. Each of these young people was selected in a nationwide forum competition put on under the auspices of the Ministries of Education in their home countries. They were brought to the United States by Pan American World Airways and Trans World Airlines and are here for a 3-month visit during each stay in 4 different American families and host communities. But let me introduce you to the students who are participating in this discussion. From Brazil is 18-year-old Susie Rigolet. Susie, how are things going in your host family? Any problems?
Gosh, I sure have.
Have you?
Yes, you know, before I came here to the States, they told me I'd have to go to lots of parties. You know, they haven't taken me to one party and not one American date. I feel offended and left out.
How about you, Rena, from South Africa? Been having any interesting experiences?
Well, yes, I had a very interesting experience just 2 days ago. I met a girl from Belgium. And, well, she spoke Flemish, and I speak Afrikaans. And yet we understood each other better.
Had you known the 2 languages were so alike?
Well, I didn't know that before, except that I wrote to a pen friend in Belgium, and I could read the letters, but I didn't know that we would be able to understand each other so well when we actually spoke the languages.
That's a new fact for me, too. How about you, Yilma? How are you getting on? Yilma Tadesse from Ethiopia.
It's exactly different from what my dear friend Susie had. In me, there are lots of parties. I had been offered lots of parties, and I had to attend them and dance there. But unluckily, there are many girls who would like to dance with me. And so the student council had first of all to receive an application for a dance and then have it signed by me. And on the whole, all things went on very well. I mean, with my family, the faculty advisor of the school, and the students. And I have a terrible thing. I couldn't tear apart myself from this community and the school.
It makes it hard when you can stay only 2 weeks, doesn't it, and have to leave. I know, but if you stayed in just one community for the whole 3 months, you generalize and think that all America was like that. So it's probably fair, but I know it's hard. Marcella from Italy. By the way, what are people doing about your name? Do they call you Marcella?
No, American people can't say Marcella as we do in Italian, so they call me Marcy.
Good nickname. Glad you got it here. Well, how are things going, Marcy?
Oh, quite well. I am quite at home here. But I was really astonished because I've never seen people kiss so much as here you do. I mean, people, of course, young person, girls and boys.
This part of your high school education, is it, Martha?
Yeah, it is.
You take a course in kissing.
So look, maybe it's too early to ask you this yet, but could I ask whether you've so far got any dominant impression, your first impression of the United States?
Well, you see, in Brazil, the impressions you have of the States is what you see in the movies. So when you see a musical, you think life in America is just dandy. Everybody floats around in a rosy cloud, singing songs with a beautiful and handsome young man beside you. Then you see a gangster movie, and all the Americans are bloodthirsty and violent. So when I came here, as an American life, an American family was so different. I felt so at home. It's a real family life. You know, I've complained about the parties, but maybe it's just as good because I'm with my family every evening. We watch TV, we talk, we have discussions, we do homework. So it's just as good.
So your image of America made from movies, where every young girl had a young man and danced all the time, hasn't proved to be true in your case.
No, not yet.
Maybe it will. Maybe that will come later.
I hope so.
Any other impressions?
Yes, I do. I thought the Americans would be hospitable and friendly. And as a matter of fact, it became true. I proved it. Starting from the airplane, the hostesses were just as sisters, rather, and the faculty advisor from the school, host families, and everything got to be true. And it's really wonderful. I'm amazed.
Is that your dominant impression so far from America? Anything here that you hadn't expected?
Oh, sure. There is one thing that I didn't expect. It's really funny, but I have to say it.
Go ahead.
There is a dog in the family I am in. It's called Trooper. That's its name. And it's quite familiar. And at lunchtime and at dinner, it just pulls itself to the table and asks for food. It's really just contrary to my country. They wouldn't even, dogs don't even pass the dining hall at all. And it's rather peculiar and strange.
Got any dominant impressions, Marcy?
Yes, I got another one about animals too, because I was really astonished when I arrived here, seeing how big your cats are. Really big.
Cats? C-A-T-S?
Yes, really.
Cats. Bigger than Italian ones?
Yes. Oh, I don't know. Perhaps they eat vitamins and I think so. No, because I don't know if you went to a supermarket, but I went, and did you see the big section where you can buy all the food for dogs and it was
more food for animals than for us?
Let's come back to you, Rena. Any dominant impressions so far?
Well, it might seem strange, but I think the inscription upon the Statue of Liberty, which I also saw at my arrival at Idlewild today, "Give me your tired, your poor. I lift the lamp beside the golden door." I think that will be my one dominant impression of America whenever I get back and think of the wonderful time with.
I ain't gonna play that too much. They bombing. But they bombing on America though. But this how the world see, they got a whole nother view of you. And we sitting over here trying to emulate all these other ideals. The Ethiopian dude really got a beef with the Italian.
Changed. It used to be just on the Statue of Liberty. Now I'm glad we've got it in the airport too. Now I want to come back to some of the fairly startling things you all said at the beginning. Susie, you said that North Americans or United Statesians in Brazil, I won't call us Americans because you're Americans too, if I can think of it, acted and treated you as if you were an American colony. Now tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, you know, most Americans in Brazil are tourists. I live in Rio, and Rio is a tourist city. So they come there, they just ask, they act as if they own the world, and they just look down on us like that. So we really don't feel like very at home with them. But I had another experience of Americans too, because I lived for 1 year in an American camp. It was near Rio. My father was Light and Power. We had to live, we were segregated from the rest from towns. We were just a little camp. And there the Americans acted differently. Well, for one thing, I had to learn the American language, the English language, because, as you know, the Americans wouldn't think of learning Portuguese. Oh, no. So I had to learn it. And so I saw that the Americans are really very friendly. They love animals. Yeah, they love animals, Yoma. And they're always in a hurry. They often themselves don't know why they're in a hurry. They just run around.
What about Americans in some of your other countries? How about Italy, Marcy?
Well, I know that there are a lot of Americans in Italy, but who live there too. I think that Italian people think that all the Americans are very, very rich, and so perhaps they would like better if American tourists, when they go to Italy, spend much more money. I don't know, because Italian people thought that they think that Italian Americans don't spend enough money in our country.
You said just now that the Ethiopians dislike the Americans as a result of the Italians.
Yes, this is really shocking for me. Why?
Just wait. It's really wonderful. Don't you know the relation between Ethiopia and Italy?
Yes.
From 1936 to 1941. Would you mind telling me if you have come across it in your history? I don't think so, you would. But let me hear it.
Oh, I like better if you speak. What do you learn in your school?
Do you mean
we don't learn very much about the very, very recent history in our school?
You don't even know the countries you have tried to colonize?
Yes, I know this. And I think that they built many roads too in Europe, and I think that they did good things too.
Yeah, that's true. But don't you know what you did? I mean, didn't you learn in your history that what Italy did to Ethiopia? In what year? And when did they go out or things like that? Don't you come across?
Go on, tell us.
That's a fair question, Marcy. Tell us what you learned or what you know about the Italian trouble with Ethiopia.
Oh, I don't know very much indeed. I think that perhaps I studied something about it, but now I forgot it.
Well, I'll be pleased to tell you if you haven't come across it in your history. Well, it should have been, because you have been in my country for 5 years, from 1936 to 1941. Yes, you came and bombarded our country, killed all of people, and did all sorts of things. And still you don't know this kind of this thing. Well, luckily you were kicked out in 1941.
Well, Yoma,
maybe she doesn't know it because it's much more important to the Ethiopians than to the Italians.
Well, of course, I admit, it might be as well important to know for her. I mean, what her country has done, what countries Italy dominated, what countries Italy tried to colonize. Don't you think that would at least be important to know what country she colonized?
It would be a little important to them and very important to you.
It's very important to me, and I know it well. And I have explained it to you.
I wonder if this raises a question that we ought to tackle. Is it a good thing that in schools today in 1958, you don't learn much about 1938? Is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? And is it true of other events of the 1930s?
Well, I think it's a bad thing. I would like to know much more of how of our government, of our economy, and of all the things that are happening now in the world. In our school, we don't study this kind of thing. We just study history as far as I think the first World War.
Well, don't you ever get to study, for example, Italy under fascism and the Second World War?
Yes, I think that first I'm studying these things next year, I think, but I'm not sure.
But now at 18, your history that you've studied in school has just brought you up to 1914.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't study current history, what kind of things do you study in school, Marcy? Now, I don't mean to be unkind, but you said that the Americans had a childish education and were completely uncultured. What do you learn in school?
Oh, we learn a lot of things which I don't know if they are very useful for us. For instance, we in my school, I'm attending a classical school, and so we learn Greek and Latin, history and philosophy, and a lot of very old-fashioned things.
But you haven't really learned yet about the fascist period in Italy.
No, I think I'm learning something next year.
Now, what about in Ethiopia, Yilma? What have you learned in school about this period? Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we celebrate the day the Italians were kicked out every year. And I don't mean it's our independent day. We had our independence even before Christ, rather. And we just remember that date and just celebrate it. And of course, every individual in Ethiopia wouldn't ever forget what the Italians had done to us.
What the Italians do to us?
They killed many people, innumerable.
Why?
Well,
They like to colonize our country, and we didn't let them do so. Well, we have to sacrifice so many bloods and things like that in order to keep the freedom of our country. Don't you think that's good?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
perfectly true.
I guess.
Marina, tell me about the education in your country. Do you learn really history up to date?
Well, I wouldn't say as up to date as in American schools, for in American schools, they seem to know everything more about the present history than about the past. And yet I think perhaps in this atom age of ours, it's more important. But I'd like to tell Yilma just something. Yilma, do you know that you were talking about your very old country, but I don't know if you ever heard about the Zimbabwe ruins it's more or less in Rhodesia, a little bit in South Africa, the Union. And we think that the Ethiopian people built it there, and there can be found no traces whatsoever which people inhabited it or whatever happened.
It's probably the Ethiopians. I agree.
I'm sure.
And that's the proof that our country, Ethiopia, existed before Christ also.
I had to catch that joker, man. That mother be popping up.
You say that your people came down from the Middle East. You are not native African.
No, not at all.
Ethiopian.
As a matter of fact, we don't have the Negro blood at all. And
the third Ethiopian that I done heard say that they don't have the Negro blood, but only one of them went back and said, I feel more like a Negro, and that was dude in the very first video for the people who ain't even seen it. See, this is why y'all got to catch up now. Y'all got to catch up. Y'all got to catch up. Let me keep going.
We migrated from the Semitic type of the Saudi Arabia and Yemen, and the countries just away from the Red Sea. And the origin could be said that some people drafted and came to the northern part of Ethiopia. And then they migrated inwards. And time went on, they stayed instead. And then the Hamitic races from the bordering from the south and from Sudan and things like that, from the countries in Africa.
Excuse me for interrupting, but if you don't have Negro blood, then this is news to me. The Ethiopians, I would think, wouldn't have any particular feeling about race relations in other parts of Africa.
We don't at all feel any relationship. It's none of our concern. We just don't care about it. As we don't have the Negro blood, we shouldn't have to worry ourselves. The color you might, the color of my face, it's just dark because it's due to the exposure of the sun. And my country is a mountainous country. It's 800 feet above sea level. And it's more or less nearer to the sun than the other countries that lay near the equator.
Yilma?
Yeah.
You're not white?
And not black?
Not black. What are you?
It's just in between.
Yilma, and I would like to know, are you, for instance, very much interested in the South African race policy? Or do you stand more or less objective towards that?
Not at all. We wish you would do things fairly. You don't treat the native South Africans as you do right now. But as a matter of fact, we don't care. We just listen to your policies and things that go on in South Africa. But I'd like to ask you one question. Would it become more, would it be, would you think it would be a little, would the matter be worse or better, within these few years? Or what is the stand right now of this South African problem?
Could I just ask you another question before I answer yours?
Yeah.
Is there any discrimination, for instance, between the separate tribes in your country? How do you, for instance?
I'm happy you brought that point. As a matter of fact, we, the Amhara tribes consider ourselves superior to the consider them inferior and consider ourselves superior. And that could be something of segregation, but it's not actually in the sense that you take it and the Americans in Little Rock take it. It's just very unprominent.
Do you mean that you think that the other tribes are perhaps a little too primitive, for instance?
Not so matter of primitiveness or so. It's just a matter of ignorance, I shall say.
Oh.
The Amhara tribes are more cute and clever. And that's why, they are just...
That's your tribe?
Yeah, that's my tribe.
That's very modest, yeah. And Yuma, do you have whites in Ethiopia? White people?
Foreigners?
White people, yes.
Yeah, lots of them. We have the Americans, as a matter of fact. They're working in different departments. And I'd like to say one point on that. They seem to be more cooperative in... they looked as though they are cooperative in my country, and I thought it was because they were in a foreign country that they should cooperate. But no, I proved it right here. They have assemblies in communities and things like that. They are more cooperative than I actually saw it in my country.
Yuma, just to get back to another point, do you then think, for instance, it's fair that if there is discrimination in Ethiopia, even between the same race and the same nation.
Not the same race, of course, the same nation.
The same nation.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think then it's fair to judge South Africans as white towards black? If you don't, for instance, acknowledge the less good Ethiopians,
we do acknowledge them. I don't mean we don't actually consider our discrimination, what you call it, is not as prominent and worldwide known as in South Africa. That's it.
Well, what are we actually saying here? That there is all kinds of discrimination, and discrimination is all right as long as it isn't too prominent, or as long as it isn't between black and white. What are we saying here anyway?
No, it's like this. She said, do you think the discriminations in your country is good, or the segregation?
Excuse me, let's hear from Susie on this, because Brazil's got a special point of view, I'm sure.
No, what they wanted to say is that he was telling her that she has discrimination. She's telling him
segregation, not discrimination.
I'm sorry, segregation. And she's telling him that he has a kind of segregation too. And he won't admit it.
I did. I just told you first of all. How did you happen to know it?
I consider your segregation different.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're all different.
Well, what's it like in Brazil, Susie?
Well, my country has a very good point, a point of advantage in that, because we have no segregation at all. And we could be in the same position as the United States, because we had slaves just the same as they did, just about the same time as they did. Only our country was a colony of Portugal. The United States was a colony of England. The Englands are Anglo-Saxons. The Portuguese are Latins. And the Latin race, mingles very easily. So there were marriages between black and white. They form mulattoes, which are not black and are not white. They mingle and mingle and mingle. So now we don't have black and white. We have all sorts of colors, from white to very black, with light brown in between. And in Brazil, there's just no question if that person has a little Negro blood, like here in the States. He has 1/8 of Negro blood, he's considered a Negro. He has 1/16, he's considered white. You just don't have it. You look at the person, look at another one, they're people. That's what's different. And I wanted to ask you something, Rena. You say there's a great segregation in your country.
That's right.
And in your country, do you have prejudices against the black people?
Well, I wouldn't actually say prejudices. Perhaps I should just explain this to you. Everybody seems to have heard of apartheid during the last few months, years. And I think it's perhaps misinterpreted in most instances. I'll tell you what apartheid actually means. It means the development of two separate racial groups within their own area.
Man, these people here, boy, I'm telling you, you learn a lot from the past. You learn a lot from the past. And if you don't correct that stuff continues to linger. This man said he ain't no Negro. And all them white people looked at him like, what?
Susie, you said that there is no discrimination whatsoever in Brazil. Could you just tell me more or less, are there more whites or more blacks in Brazil?
There are more whites.
There are more whites?
Yes, there are more whites. But you can say white and black. White and not white.
Oh, yes.
Because the blacks aren't just black. They're all colors, as I told you. Because the whites marry very easily with the black and with the Indians. In Brazil, that happens very much. So we just don't count blacks and whites. Just people, you know. It's very different from your country.
For instance, would you marry a
black one? I think that I personally wouldn't marry a black one because my parents wouldn't approve of it.
And you don't you think that's a little bit of discrimination?
It is.
I'm sure.
On my part, I wouldn't. But I'm not a real Brazilian because my parents are Swiss. But the real Brazilians,
they would.
Yes, they would, and they do. They do very often. They do it all the time. In fact, yes, there's really no discrimination in this. But now let me come back to the question. You said you have a kind of prejudice in your country. Do you have it here? Do you feel any prejudice against a black person here? Do you feel kind of awkward?
Oh, no, not in the least. For instance, I think that integration in America is perfectly right. And I think it should be done. And therefore, I approve of it. But I just don't see how integration would work in South Africa, at least, not for the present. For in South Africa, it's 3 million whites against 12 million. Whilst in America, it's altogether different. And I'm quite assured that the present policy that we follow is going to be the solution of the problem at last.
Actually, I hope. Could you imagine the Brazilian problem having been solved like that?
No, it doesn't. It won't ever work. Because people are people. They can't be separated. You stay here. You stay here. You are white. You are black. You can't. Are you God to judge what they have to do, where they have to stay? You have to go in those schools. They have to go in those schools. You marry with this one. She marries that one. No.
No, it's not a question of who is God and who's going to judge. But it's a civilization against a civilization. After all, it is the white South Africans that have built up South Africa to where it is now. With the help of the other, but with the supervision. With the supervision of the. It has to be like that, you know. Oh yes, perhaps it should, but I don't know. After all, it's not fair to think that South Africans should just quit all their good work right here. For instance, I couldn't tell what is going to happen in future, but I think for the present time, there is no other solution. Well, what would you think?
Well, I think that people have a right to live as they want to. I think you can't put a barrier between people. Let them go and do as they wish to. If they want to go to your schools, let them. If they don't want to, okay.
I'm sorry, our time's up and you're just beginning to get into the interesting part of the discussion. It's a good note to end on that you gave us, Susie. People are people. In a brief summary, I think I've learned a couple of things tonight. I've learned a little bit more about Ethiopians' racial background. I've learned something about schools in Europe these days and the fact that they don't teach current history. We may do a little more talking about schools. I think I should say, too, that our purpose is not so much to tackle a single subject exhaustively and reach conclusions. Maybe at the end of 3 months, we'll just have a few tentative conclusions of the world we want. Our purpose is rather to give you some of the fun and maybe a little of the excitement that comes when this group of young people from all over the world get together and try to get to know each other.
So let's talk. Let's talk. Now y'all see the relevance of me talking about art today. Now y'all see the relevance of me talking about art and how colonialism has screwed the worldview of Africans. What's up?
Man, if you don't get your I ain't black, but I'm blacker than everybody in the room, my man's head is Madagascar alone. Like, I experienced that too with certain Africans that I've done business with, Ethiopian restaurants up here in Evanston, you know, in the Chi-Town area. You go up there and some of them act like they just better than their own countrymen because now they in America. Like, yeah, that's real. Like, they'll do that. And they're how they call it'd be Ethiopian restaurant. You get the Ethiopian cuisine experience. But they don't, like, some of them don't really be trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm Ethiopian pride. Like how we big up West Africa and how we big up just being black. Yeah, I've seen that. That's crazy.
Yeah, man, we definitely had those people still around. A lot of them today are called Moors. Like that's why if any of y'all is familiar with Sabir Bey, watch, pay attention. Notice how much he mentions Ethiopia. Right? Put two and two together. Watch how he say he ain't black and will remove himself from a term that the rest of our people identify with. I don't care where it started at. That's called the etymological fallacy. We talking about what the word means to us today. Our people connect with that term. We identify with that term, regardless of how it originally came about or how it originally came to us. That don't have nothing to do with what it means today. So watch these people. Watch how they make these connections. He over there literally talking about Ethiopia now, like right now. He do that all the time. But it's a reason for these things. Watch how these Ethiopians, and if y'all paid attention to the stream last night, we had two other ones that were saying the same thing. They're not black. They're not black. They're not Negro. They ain't whatever you want to call it. They ain't that. They burnt. They just look that way because they skin burnt.
They kissed by the sun. They close to. They were staunch Hebrews, members of the lost tribe.
That's why I said that's Mika kinfolk.
Craziness. 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 And it's important. I mean, it's important for y'all to watch that. I promise it's important for y'all to go back and watch last night for that simple reason. And yeah, that comparison of bringing Ethiopia to the forefront, right, into the conversation, because you're correct. He continues to use Ethiopia as a launch pad to argue from. Man, what about Ethiopia? I'm like, yeah, because he said that crap to me, and I was like, man, I'm not going way over Ethiopia. We talking about West Africa. You know what I mean? He's doing that. That's intentional. That's intentional, and that's because Ethiopians don't think that they're Negro. They don't think that they're black, and that connects. That connects. this is, boy, that's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to kind of like get into. And for people who missed the conversation, you know, I put the link in I put that link to the show in the chat. But I also put the link to get on the panel in the chat too.
Hey, I had to get up out of the I had about just converted to a Bobo Shanti Rasta myself about 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago. I mean, coming into finding out who Rastas were, like I knew, you know, our story in terms of being
Christians.
Right, exactly. And that's what, after a while, I just began to look at it from I stopped, because when you coming from Baptist Christian, American Baptist Christian, and then you trying to you start looking at the craziness, you realize the craziness in the Bible, and then you gravitate towards something else, not really looking at how they're using the same book. So like I said, I don't care if it's an Amharic Bible. It's a Bible. Oops. You know what I'm saying? And yes, you can black it out and you can make it sound good with the Jamaican dialect, and you know what I mean? You can wagwan with a Rastaman, I cook up an ital food for the man them all day long. But at the end of the day, you still Christian. So you're gonna have that mindset. Yep. And definitely people don't know about Selassie. Like they think they do. All they doing is regurgitating what the countryman, you know what I'm saying? Like they don't really see what was really going on.
Yeah, he saw the people out to hold his to keep his kinship. You know what I'm saying? There was he was willing to sell his people out to keep his kinship. So it's crazy.
Hey, but what y'all think about dude saying what y'all think about dude saying where the Ethiopians come from? Because he said the reason why he ain't black, he gave a reason why. He said they descend from Arabs or whatever, and they came down the hills or some shit like that. What y'all think about that?
Man, bro, it's just craziness. That's not the hills kept them from being actually conquered. Those mountains and all of that kept them from being conquered because it exposed them people trying to come down. So I'm not gonna necessarily get into all of that, but oh man, he made my head hurt. But they all say the same thing, man. You know what I mean? They all say the same thing.
That's the first time I ever heard that.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah, if you watch the other one, bro, you'll know. Yeah.
In nature, and I definitely agree. Like, I'm not saying that first of all, I ain't never seen a Rasta serial killer. Like, I don't hear about Rastas kidnapping children or nothing like that. And truth be told, they some of the cleanest eating people on the planet. You see what I'm saying? But when it comes to so what we got to be able to do is still look at something for what it is. Like, we can take a story and make it what we want to make it, but that ain't what the Bible actually say. You see what I'm saying? It's nothing wrong with being like, I still rock with Rastas and whoever. I rock with black people globally. But what I'm saying is, as far as believing in a religion, because I want a blackology to death out the religion, that don't make it, you know what I'm saying? It's still a conquering, colonizing thing. Christianity ain't nothing good for black people, regardless. I'm not going to change nobody's mind to stop being a Christian. My fiance is Christian. You know what I'm saying? My family still identifies with Christian. My OG is Christian. Like, I get that. But at the end of the day, you're a human being before anything. And as a black human being, you were conquered by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Let me see, man. Yeah, I don't care nothing about people coming at. What up? Shout out to the spies, man. You know what I mean? Shout out to everybody want to come over here to try to see what we got going on, man. You know what I mean? And keep the mess up. Shout out to y'all. I see you. I just want to let y'all know we see you. That's it. I put the link in the anybody want to join, man. But yeah, absolutely great points. Yeah, I know you. I know you kind of shocked Satepa Rock. He said it's the first time he in that. This just sound crazy.
Yeah, I'm like, damn, I ain't never heard an Ethiopian say that.
Yeah, bro. And you watched last night, man. I promise you, the other Ethiopians say the same thing.
Now is this a new? Because I know that this obviously this footage is before color TV. Is there any modern footage where they saying that?
Man, yeah, you got the Moors. That's what they rhyme with it. You know what I mean?
I'm talking about you know, authentic Ethiopians.
Let's see if we can find some. I know we can because
we know the Moors gonna say some bullshit.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Peace, King Sosa.
What's good? What's good? Question.
Yeah, I'm gonna play it for you. Go ahead.
Does black and Negro carry the same meaning anywhere you are?
Yes.
How so?
It's an evolution.
So when he says he's not black, what does he mean?
He meaning that he not Negro.
Yeah, he's not like the other people on the continent, like the people in Central Africa, like the people in South Africa, like the people in West Africa.
So he's not talking about
a clear distinction.
Yeah, so he's not talking about skin color, right? He's talking about culture.
Yeah, he talking about culture. That's what I got from it. That's why I said I never heard an Ethiopian say that. He talking about culturally.
Yeah, so he's saying culturally they're
he just
not.
He talking about all that shit, I think.
I just have
I feel like he is too.
Just burnt. Because I'm close to the equator. He says my skin is just burnt. I'm close to the
Yeah, so he don't identify black like we do. A black and I'm proud blackness. That's not blackness to him.
Yeah. What make you think that?
I think he's disconnecting himself.
Right, exactly. He's disconnecting himself from the rest of the sub-Saharan Africans.
Based on culture.
Based on everything that identifies as Sub-Saharan Africa.
But not color, because he know he looks like the same people.
But he's saying he looks like the same people, not because of the evolutionary process, but because they were burnt by the skin, that they used to be a different color. This is the same thing that when you go, when you see the Igbo, the Igbo Jews, and they'll tell you they came from a white man, but they settled in Africa and they start getting burnt. They start turning darker and darker. That's the same shit.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Igbo.
I want to intensify. Let me get it back. Let me get it back, Sauce. Let me get it back. I understand where you. I understand where you're going, so
I already know we go turn it up so we can really get into it.
I ain't trying to reject it. That's why I ain't trying to reject it. But you know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Down from the Middle East. You are not native African.
No, not at all.
Ethiopian.
He said she asked him a question specifically. She said, "So you're not native African? You're Ethiopian. So there's a distinction."
That's the land. Hey, that's the land mass.
Yeah, but when he says native African, he's saying he's not from that continent. That's what he's saying.
Let's see.
Yep.
So I'm saying we got to unpack it because it was 1957. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to unpack everything so we don't, you know what I mean?
he the confused sauce.
because they're using English nomenclature.
You're right.
You're right. From the continent. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no. I agree. You're absolutely right. I know, because it was Satepara was confused. I knew somebody else had to be confused about it. Let's go.
Down from the Middle East, you are not native African.
No, not at all.
Ethiopian.
As a matter of fact, we don't have the Negro blood at all. And we migrated from the Semitic type of the Saudi Arabia and Yemen and the countries just away from
Pause it.
Hold on, Sean. See, you see what he said? He's making more than a cultural distinction. He said we not these people by quote unquote race. We ain't our blood, exactly. Our blood don't have shit to do with their blood. So it's everything. It ain't just culture. He's separating himself.
Because those are Ethiopians, you have those, Habesha up there.
God damn.
Who are kind of they mix with that little they mix with those people in the area. They identify with those people from that Arabian area versus the interior.
But so are the Haratine. The Haratine of North Africa are also mixed with Arabs and Berbers, but they're mostly what we would call today black. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, I hate when we use black. You go confuse me because I'm gonna think color when you say black.
Okay, Negro, same thing, interchangeable.
But you see, right? You see how he said video. Do you see how he said she said you are not native African, and he says no. As a matter of fact, we don't have the Negro blood at all, which means that Negro is synonymous with African according to the vernacular at the time.
Right. Negro, Negro equates to African, not necessarily not color.
Right, but in the 21st century, to your question, Brother Sosa, it does become interesting because black here in America doesn't carry the same weight as black outside of America.
Yeah, not especially in 1957.
Right.
Because they wouldn't even know how you make a distinction, and we all look the same. Like, how would that play out when everybody black?
This is called the Hermetic hypothesis. Look in the back chat, Sean. I got a more up to date one. Another Ethiopian dude saying the same exact thing.
Hey, he said also that he's a Semitic. He said they come from the Semitic.
Those Habeshas are Semitic speakers. Those Habeshas. That's what they are.
So hold on. Let me get to this other one. But see, you got to remember when Dynasty had the Etrian dude on his channel saying the same thing. And then you had
my roommate was Eritrean.
Yeah, so they trying to separate themselves, and I'm like, see, look, Habesha women date black men. You know what I'm saying? So, and that goes back to his point. And then look, they brought this video back up, a dude saying it right here, like they really into that. They really into that. Like we couldn't even get beyond that. But let me stop sharing real quick so I can go to the vault. I don't want y'all to see the vault. The vault is a secret location. You know where Batman keep all his weaponry in that. Yeah, you can't see that.
Because one of the reasons I bring it up, right? Because when you look at the Khoisan, right, and the Khoi, the Khoi separate themselves from the Khoisan. They think the Khoisan is the deep.
That's culture, though.
You call it what you want, but they have a superiority. We're superior.
No, it ain't me calling. I'm telling you, that's a cultural distinction.
Yeah, but I'm saying they
saying that we are the same. We are different people based on we not native or indigenous to this land, or we don't share the same blood with you. They're not making that claim. They're just saying culturally, the Yoruba is different from the Yoruba of Nigeria, going than the Yoruba of Benin. But I mean, what does that mean? That's just culture. They're just making a distinction with culture. That's how people That's how people define themselves.
You know, when you look in that area, though, it's going to be a little bit more complicated because you're dealing with back migrations in that particular area.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Versus a back migration in West Africa. You understand? Based on locale.
So you saying you've observed the Khoi, and I'm not asking to be. This is not argumentative. I'm trying to learn like everybody else. So the Khoi look at the Khoisan because it used to be Khoi and San, right? Way back in the day, right?
Yeah, the Khoi mean men of men. Khoisan mean men of nothing.
Huh.
The Khoi will actually have the Khoisan work for them sometime when they don't have, in terms of drought or trade. The Khoisan may come and work the herd, stuff like that for them. So it's in the name.
So the San people are looked at as being beneath Khoi, basically.
Yeah. To the Khoi. Which is,
now, let me ask you this, because I never heard that either. I'm in the boat with T'Challa. I'm learning too. Now, because you said Khoi mean men of men and Khoisan mean men of nothing. Do the Khoisan people go by Khoisan?
It's really a derogatory term.
That's what I'm saying. So do they call
really
themselves?
a derogatory term because they call them men of nothing because they don't own, because they have nothing. They don't own nothing. They look at them like you don't have no cattle. You just bums.
I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying?
Right. They're not they don't have that aspect of humanity and culture at that level. They're still back behind to where like when all we did was chuck the stick and don't even have domesticated cattle like you're saying. Right. I understand.
They have a home. They kind of wander about. They don't. You know what I mean? They don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something to look into.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely.
Where you at with it, Sean?
Hold on, let me hear this.
እኔ አንድ ጀርመን ውስጥ አንድ ክለብ ልገባ ስል ጥቁር ስለሆንክ አትገባም ማለት እኔ ጥቁር አይደለም። በመጀመሪያ ደረጃ እኔ ከኃይለ ሥላሴ ሀገር ያቋቸዋል። ኃይለ ሥላሴ ወደ 6,000 ብርድ ልብስና ወደ $200,000 ለጀርመን በሁለት ያንን እርዳታ ሰጥተዋል። እያንዳንዱ ጀርመናዊ ይሄን ያውቃል። ሚዜማቸው ውስጥ ብርድ ልብሳችንም የደብረ ብርሃን ብርድ ልብስ ፋብሪካ
Hello? Hello?
I can hear you. I don't know.
Are you on the phone, nigga?
I'm like, you talking to me? Like,
but nah, man, somebody called me, one of those people, you know how they using people numbers, but I didn't ever say nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And then I heard her say hello, and then as soon as I said hello, she put the operator on. Trying to, you know what I'm saying? Trying to sell me some crap. They were using Bank of America as a cover up though. But I don't even care. Yeah, I ain't finna buy nothing. But yeah, you play that's the video?
It was, but shit, it don't look like they speaking English on that motherfucker.
Nah, they ain't speaking no English. No habla español. But nah, we cool on that. But yeah, man, so should we revisit the video from yesterday for the Ethiopian dude? Oh, let's do that.
Yeah.
I can play his part. I don't want to play the whole part. I want people to watch that whole bill because it gives meaning to everything, and the reason why, you know, our artistic expression means so much, and our history means so much to us. Y'all can see the screen though, right? Yeah. Screen.
From Africa. Let me introduce them to you now. First, from the Gold Coast is 18-year-old Alfred Bannerman. We call him Nini. It all started, Nini tells us, when he was born. He looked like a little old man. Own prejudices are? How about you, Nabi?
Actually, I'm prejudiced against the Italians, and I have been prejudiced against the Mohammedans. Since I arrived here, I have developed some new prejudices, and I never felt that I was a Negro till I came to this country.
Why?
Him right there. That's him when he said what he said. So let's go. This dude. He never felt like a Negro.
Weak.
He came to
I'm
this
weak. Look at his face.
Yeah, he said, why? Yeah. All right. So now let's get this dude on some gang.
Yeah, go ahead and play the explanation because it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah, I gotta play this dude. This is the dude from last night. See, both. That's why I played both videos for a reason, because of the points. Like, all right, so
we've you admitted to several at the beginning. Well, as I told you before, we have also our own prejudices against the African Negroes. We consider them as inferior. We have, of course, our own reasons for saying so. What are they, Mister? Well, first thing, we consider ourselves to be of the lost tribe of Israel and not Negroes. It's only that our faces are burned that we look like Negroes. And also, we've been ruling part of Africa for hundreds of years. During the 16th century, and we ruled part of Egypt, Sudan, and as far down as Mozambique. Well, what about your prejudices against white men? Well, back home, if a woman marries a white man, she's considered mean, and when she dies, the priests never play for her as they would do for any ordinary man. It's just considered as suicide. Why do you think they look down on the white people so much? Well, for the first reason, religiously they consider them unclean in heart because they eat pork, and that's prohibited in religion. Susan, you got any prejudices?
all right. So you heard it from two of them. You heard it from two of them now.
I mean, they got a good reason, I guess. I mean, I don't know, man.
They both said that they were Hebrews. Boy, they both said they was Hebrews. Three of them, really. They all say they come from the lost tribes. They ain't got the Negro blood. They don't rock with Mohammedists. White people don't eat clean.
Hey, Sean, I thought he said the Negro over here come from the lost tribe. That's why they consider us inferior.
No, bro. No.
He said he do run it back, man. I'm playing.
He said he come from the lost tribes.
Yeah, run that back. I'm playing this dang on game.
I know you is.
Where you at, Sutek?
You can't leave him out there by himself, Sutek. You get killed.
I'm about to hop in that thing.
No, hold on. Here you go, right here.
Very small country, and yet you have all these differences in their country.
Nesbitt, how about your prejudices? You admitted to several at the beginning. Well, as I told you before, we have also our own prejudices against the African Negroes. We consider them as inferior. We have, of course, our own reasons for saying so. What are they, Nesbitt? Well, we consider ourselves to be of the lost tribe of Israel and not Negroes. It's only that our
He said he is from the lost tribe of Israel and not Negroes.
No, he said we consider. He said we consider them.
No, look, listen.
Hold on, wait, Sean. Before you play it,
he's talking about Africans. He's saying Negroes. He's talking about Africans. He's separating himself. That's the Arab stuff.
Let me hear it again, because I feel like he's saying we are.
All right, hold on. Here you go.
To several at the beginning. Well, as I told you before, we have also our own prejudices against the African Negroes. We consider them as inferior. We have, of course, our own reasons for saying so. What are they? Well, first thing, we consider ourselves to be of the lost tribe of Israel and not Negroes. It's only that our faces are burned that we look like Negroes. And also,
See?
I heard it that time.
Hey, let me ask y'all this. Now, if I came on these shows and I told y'all that the Negro and the African is inferior to us because we are the real Hobbit people, and anybody who claimed to be African or a Negro is inferior to us, how would y'all feel against me?
Hold on. First of all, who is that?
This is Sonny right here.
Sound like Sonny. Sound like Sonny.
No, this
Yeah,
is Sonny.
Sonny. We said what's something nobody had done, Sonny.
I know Sonny boy.
Whenever you hear Hobbit, you know it's me.
It's Sonny.
Boy.
Go ahead,
Sound
Sonny.
just like a Negro. I knew he would.
Right.
I gotta put my white voice. Hey guys.
Nah,
no, but really though, in all actuality, right? Because this is an old video, and we're laughing about it, but it's a real historic moment to how people really thought, right?
No,
like how people,
it's serious. It's I said it yesterday.
Yeah.
Video. I was serious. Like, this is a problem.
Yeah, it's a historic moment for a lot of us, especially the younger viewers that's really catching on to the black and white shows and how people actually thought back then compared to now, because you have people nowadays, like we've been talking about shows. Well, I'm talking about compared to now, because we have up-to-date information and people still think like they're in the 60s as far as angels gonna crack the sky and stuff. This is a real thing.
No, I'm saying,
so
they still think like that now. My roommate was
getting to the page of how No, I was just saying how they think now is basically how people were thinking in the 60s that didn't have no kind of formal education or anything, or even can have any kind of books that was tangible. But now there's information, education all over the place, and they're still stuck in this past way of thinking. And the past way of thinking on this program, I mean, this show, that the video he was just putting, it actually shows you the mind frame of the Black African, to where they separate themselves depending on what structure or what part of the landmass they were born in or raised at. And this is kind of like something that really needs to be talked about. But I really do like that this part is kind of hyping me up though. But I'm gonna put my time in.
All right. States wrestle with requirements for proof of vaccine eligibility. Yeah, man. That's a problem all the way. But it does give us the overall perspective. And like I said yesterday, that's the reason why I played it yesterday, because of the relevancy today. Because of how, these things are transpiring today. Like, we really seriously have to deal with it. You know what I mean? And for most of us who are trying to, deal with history and culture and traditions, we have to look at it from a perspective to be able to combat that, because that's deadly and it still exists. It still exists. And we're seeing it. We're seeing it coming from, like somebody already made the distinction, the Moors and the Abos and so on and so forth. I ain't them. I'm an Abo. I ain't them. I'm a Hebrew. You know what I'm saying? That.
Hey,
Even
Sean,
when you intermingle with these Africans, when I intermingle with other Africans from different groups, they don't like it. They don't rock with each other like that. The Nigerian might maybe the most hated amongst all the African groups. Like, one thing they got in common is they hate Nigerians for some reason. Like, whether they Somalian or Eritrean, they don't like the Nigerians. You know what I mean? But they don't necessarily rock with each other like that.
Nah, they don't. But I think we starting to see a little bit more leniency between certain cultures. Not so Ethiopian, but as far as just West African countries, more so because of the amalgamation and all the the mixing up and things of that nature. We seeing barriers there, and even South and Central. You're seeing growth there, but just that mindset, because people in America, these African Americans, have adopted that same perception when it comes to how they identify themselves, because they think that this Moorish crap is going to get them some justification somewhere, or I don't know, some craziness. But this is a head scratcher. It's a head scratcher. But yeah, it's understandable, because it speaks to it. it speaks to basically one's worldview, depending on what time period. Exactly, you know what I'm saying? Like the Ethiopians made distinctions. They made distinction about whites. They made distinction about uh, people in the West, people in the Central, people in the South. They made distinctions about religious, religious portions of it, and that's the reason why that first video that I showed with the dudes in it, just the all dude panel, was important because after they differences as far as how they see one another, you know what I mean? The next thing that came into play as far as prejudices became religion. And you heard a dude say he was prejudiced against Mohammedans, and the dude next to him was from northern Nigeria, and he was like, "But wait, I'm a Mohammedanist." And then what I'm saying, I got prejudices against Christian, and then the other black dude say, "Wait, but I'm a Christian." And then the one person that don't say nothing about no religious background or sect or anything like that is the white dude. He ain't get into none of that. He stayed out of the religious conversation. He from South Africa.
So we basically witnessed him in a verbal exchange, what is and has been going on the continent right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they'll do the same thing in person at our conferences, drum and dance conferences, concerts, and all kind of conversations kick up after you go see a show. And we'll get to arguing about, well, they do Islam this way, they do Islam that way. Yeah, but at the end of the day, why do we have to practice something that doesn't come from the soil to make us feel any valid as a person, whether I want to be an Aboriginal anywhere? Like, why do I feel the need to venerate somebody else's ancestors?
But I don't see them ever throughout history taking it like that. Like, they don't hold that deep to it. They'll just mix shit in with it. It's like how we may look at it as golden. They don't see it as golden like that. If they'll just take their shit, mix it in with that. If it means getting rid of that, they'll switch. Like, they necessarily ain't really dogmatic about it like that, in a sense. Like, they'll switch.
No, right, you're right. Because like I said, they played Jogbe at the end of the Ramadan festival. You know what I'm saying? Speaking specifically in West Africa, like on the coast, what they do at the end of, after you fast in the Tabaski festival. So we playing djembe for the shit. You see what I'm saying? So you're right. It ain't like it's like how we look at it, because they didn't go through what we went through the way we went through it. They're going through, of course, prejudice, being colonized, all of that, but they weren't taken out of Africa. They're still there.
Yeah, they experienced it as a nation. You know what I'm saying? As a king, adopting it, and it being introduced as a nation versus how we got it. That's
I was just going to
totally
say
different.
that same thing. Like,
Yeah, totally
like being on the page of where you've been forced onto it versus someone just adopting it as a trade is different. And that makes a difference on how we look at religion compared to the ones out there.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, their experience with, we can look at it their experience with Islam differently because we're on we have a more objective view from the outside looking at it. You know what I'm saying? But their view of Islam, how they got it, it's going to be totally different because they're on the inside. They can't see the outer container. See what I'm saying? They can't see the shape. How we see the shape from the outside of the coat bottle, so to speak.
Yeah, that's an issue that will be looked at, continue to be looked at. So,
hey, you know what, too? Not to cut you off, Sean, but I wanted to ask you something about this, right? If this is my own opinion, but I really wanted to ask you about it. If Mecca was created in 1956, and you still have elders or older people that was around at that time that are into Islam, right? Do they understand that do you think that they understand that it's not real and it was created to benefit, like keep this going? Or do you think that they are really establishing it on
They don't.
something else?
No, they don't understand. Culturally, they don't understand. They think in order for them to progress in life and move forward, that is the key. The afterlife, all of that, all that stuff. They don't understand. They're literally when it comes to the religious ideology of Islam in West Africa or just on the continent at all. Like, they really like that. So ain't no getting around that. The only way getting around that is one brain at a time. If you open the minds and hearts of the people to getting them to see that there's really nothing wrong with your culture. But the thing with Islam is because it's been going for so long, and it's not as well. They're still they still enslaving people today pretty much. But you were able to hide. I mean, you were able to sink your traditions and customs into it because of similarities. A lot is allowed, right? But the way that the people of the Arabs, the true Arabs, whose culture really is, they just look down at the Africans like that, especially the slaves. And like, yeah, you can convert them and make them to Islam. They got to learn everything. They got to learn how to be an Arab. So once you accept being a Muslim, Islam, you have to then learn how to be a freaking Arab. You're no longer an African. You have, and therefore that's where you get this Africanizing Islam or Africanizing Christianity, because you have to identify as an Arab. They don't see you as an equal, but you got to learn how to be that. And I think
that's how you get them jihads too in West Africa. Motherfuckers like, yo, they ain't practicing Islam the way they supposed to be practicing Islam. So we about to go up here and lay these motherfuckers down.
Let me ask a question though. When you look at the Africans on the continent, right, that are Muslims, right? Now, okay, under Islam, we know, right? When you say they hate the African culture, right? Now we know with Islam, you can't have idols, whatnot, right? So that definitely wouldn't be a part, right? But on those African areas where there are strict Muslims, right? Do they still adhere to some African practices, or is it totally like you would see in, say, Saudi Arabia?
No, it ain't what you're gonna see in Saudi Arabia. You still well, we think about during Eskid Muhammad's rule or reign, right? He was still going to the bush, and you had other Muslims that looked upon him as he's not fully Muslim. He's still doing that bush stuff, and they wrote about it and talked about it. But it was so easy because of the amulets and all of those things that they wore during wartime.
Is that still there now?
Yep.
In some places, but that's why you got people like Boko Haram and stuff. What they're doing, and like the Ahmadiyya movement, they came to West Africa in the 1800s or the late 1800s, early 1900s. They brought a more traditional form of Islam. But the Islam that Muslims or enslaved African Muslims would have practiced would have had a lot of more gree and griot and a lot more of the more traditional African stuff. Like Kunta Kinte, for instance, he would have still probably had the gree on his arm, and he would have still recognized the ancestors. But what we're seeing right now in Nigeria, we're seeing like this resurgence of this Arabic Wahhabism type Islam is coming in and continuing to change the culture. You know what I'm saying? But if that helped, I hope.
Yeah.
I was curious. Like I said, I was
But
curious.
it's weird, man. They haven't advanced psychologically. They have not advanced themselves to a period of rejecting a lot of that stuff because they got that religious differences there. you got Christianity, you got Islam, and then you got pushed off to the corner where it's traditionalist or the Yoruba. And then you fight among, you know what I mean? You got all these religious wars going on mentally, you know what I mean? So that goes back to Cujo's point about Boca Raton and how they see them as jihadists and so forth.
Yeah, they're coming in, they're trying to bring the fundamentalist Islam.
The reason I asked is because if you are still doing that, then that's wrong.
Yeah.
Then they are going to come down on you.
If you ever if you read like Ibn Khaldun, correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, it's either Ibn Khaldun or he talks about how a lot of the things that I'm talking that I said I'm talking that the Muslims in Timbuktu did was shirk. You know, he said that all the time. Now a lot of stuff they did was shirk. You know what I mean? Like it was wrong. It was haram.
Yeah, wrong.
You know what I mean? But that's because they didn't have this internet. You know, they didn't have it. One, you didn't have Wahhabism at all, and a lot of these Islamic facts in Cairo, they couldn't control what was going on. Islam didn't have a central organization like Christianity with the Catholics. Islam didn't have that. So you had a lot. You had a lot of room for interpretation.
Yeah,
there are Muslims who believe that Ali, for instance, is like a second coming type figure. You know, the Muhammad supposed now. I don't think Muhammad even existed. What you actually look at? You know, you can't have no candy. No, we're about to eat.
You gotta remember, it wasn't really no Qurans in that area either at that time. Go ahead, bro.
No, go ahead. Sauce.
No, I was talking real quick. Oh, somebody on the highway.
Suit. Oh, you muted out because y'all riding bikes in the area.
Nah. I said what I said what I was saying. I was just saying there wasn't no. We gotta remember there wasn't really no Qurans in that area at that time either. So a lot of these people that was quote unquote converting, because I don't call it converting. Converting is leaving behind your old traditions for new traditions. It's basically reform. Most of them wasn't reforming. It was just what you call mixing. I can't remember the word, but mixing basically the two cultures together. You know what I'm saying? Most of them wasn't not leaving their traditional religion. That wasn't an option.
Yeah. But you also brought up a good point about that book too. It really wasn't a big deal. But that's the thing with us. So the Arab, you know what I mean? Like their presence really is like indirect rule for the Arab right now in West Africa, because really ain't really no real resources. It's resources there, but you know, so many people hand in the cookie jar that them Arabs ain't got to come through like they had to come through in the, you know what I mean, in the early times, and that's fundamentally that's where we show our ignorance, because you know we fighting to liberate the minds, but really they were just trying to liberate themselves from colonialism. They didn't even they would rather reject colonialism only, but not all the other things that came in that wave that actually put them in the state of colonialism. Like if you're going to celebrate or celebrate your liberation should be from the totality of the waves of things that transpired the last 600 years. So it shouldn't be no Islam, no Christianity, no other influence. It should be predominantly, you know, our people working together, our brothers and sisters over on the continent working together to solve problems. My issue is that even in the bill yesterday, you know what I'm saying? I think one of them was having a discussion about that, and they were talking about building things for themselves, and they were like they couldn't do it without the help of the European. And I'm like, what? You had civilizations and all these other great things before you even encountered the European. So how come you can't build that? You can't rebuild your nation, or you couldn't rebuild what your ancestors once built? Or do you even know about that? And see, we find out that most of the people in West Africa are not even privy to knowing about the civilizations that rose up, or you know, some form of history. They only know their modern situation because of what they're being taught in school. And we confirming that because when we giving our brothers and sisters, specifically in the Gambia, certain tools and things that we're talking about regarding history, we having these conversations and they like, well, we don't learn any of that. So it's like they're condensed in what they know. They don't have our resources. So we're reading at levels that they don't even reach as far as the information comes. And that's where our validity comes in, and where we got to be more sustainable with making sure that, man, look, we ain't just talking to people on YouTube. We talking to people who are on YouTube among us in America. We're talking to brothers and sisters that are in the UK and also on the continent of Africa and throughout the whole diaspora that can benefit. So it serves no purpose for us to not fight for those hearts and minds as well as the hearts and minds in the so-called conscious community.
But when you look at those people, even right, say in Gambia, right now,
yeah,
I understand they may not know, but you would have to think the people in power understand the history, right?
Fact.
So
Fact.
The thing would be, is that intentional on their behalf?
Yeah,
To keep them wrapped up in that, so they don't revolt, so they don't have that rebel spirit.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, Sean, not to cut you off, but I think that's on the same lines of the question I just asked Sean earlier. With there's Muslims, like my pops was around in the 50s, right? So I'm pretty sure it was Arabs that's alive right now that was around in the 50s, and they was around when all of these structures were being built. There wasn't that many people having books like how Sean was talking about. Like aside from what we're taught, books are really heavy distributed within the 1900s. Before that, it wasn't even really, like, people had books, but it wasn't abundant like that. And people were thinking, like, just because you can go to the local library and get all these books now, it was always like that. It wasn't like that. A lot of times, like even in John Henry Clark time, you had to have a license to even get into some of these places. So a lot of people don't even understand how deep this is with the new day information that we're getting, that can really unlock a lot of things that we've been holding from the past.
Now, what I'm talking about is the people that are in political power, right? So, you know, oftentimes their kids, the people that hold power, their kids are schooled abroad. So they're well, you know, because, you know, knowledge in the area where money is not prevalent, the rich has access to information that the poor don't. You know what I'm saying? So, and their kids are trained abroad, so they know, they have an understanding, they know the history.
But they know from a European perspective a lot of times, just like we do for the most part. Yeah. I mean, we can't assume they don't, because
no, I'm not saying that they
he's
don't.
Saying before that. He's saying before it gets to that, right? I get what he's saying because it's on the lines of what I was saying with the same question I was asking, but it's based on, it's a political movement. Of course, they know exactly what the deal is, but a lot of them that are up in higher ranks on the page of, they go along with certain aspects to keep it going. It's a political
keep it in line. Yeah.
I mean, because the European colonists, I mean, that's success. You know, to be a part of that, they just want to be a part of that.
And that's
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of something that's similar. It wasn't to the religious part, but it was the political part. When they put old boy from Chicago out there in Liberia, when they had everybody going out there to Liberia, and then he ended up going out there changing everything, and it was based on, they already had a political movement that they were doing. You remember that story?
You talking about Blight?
You touched on it. I forgot the dude's actual name. It was Tony something.
You talking about the guy who went to Liberia in 1800s?
No, it was early 1900s. It was 1900s.
Hey, but what I'm saying is, like, okay, to reject, right? To reject Islam, right? That's a mutiny.
That's like your grandmother or my grandmother stopped being a Christian. You know.
Yeah, but that would be mutiny against the government.
In some places,
it has to be taught in the home, though. Like once it becomes a formal practice, then it becomes the norm.
No, I'm talking about let's say in an African country that's Muslim.
Gambia.
If you are now educating the people to rebel against Islam, you are in direct opposition against the government.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, when the government, like it had to get there at some time in one form, right? And as it got in that form, as people generations started going and babies started happening, it was formatted that this is the imprint, and anything outside of that is not the norm. So when we come with what we coming with, that's not the norm. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's all politicized. It's all politicized.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I understand that part of it. What I'm saying is that right, I'm talking about in modern day times, right?
Mm-hmm.
They really would have to rebel against the government because it's in the best interest of those government people that are Islamic to hold those people in Islam. So the teacher, I'm saying, listen. So the teacher history that would make them push out Islam would be counterproductive to what they want to do.
Yeah.
Most African countries, Francophone countries, have a Francophone-based history, and Anglophone countries have an Anglophone-based history. It's still based on the history of the former colonies. They tell the story. You know what I mean? They tell the story. So they learn that. They learn colonialism 101. You know, a lot of times I read some about it's not Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau. They didn't even know that slavery even existed there. They didn't. I've talked to people. They didn't even know. They said they found out when they came to the United States.
I mean, shit, it sounds funny, but like I love talking to y'all because it seems like more people down south and the East Coast is more conscious compared to on the West Coast. The type of conversations we have is more on some goofy shit to everybody else. But in reality, this is more structured, and people are taught not to be into this type of thing. And all of this is political. No matter how you look at it, whether it's our structure or the structure in Africa, the way that we are that gets against us being progressive, it's all politicized. No matter how you look at it, just religion is just one form of it. But it's a bunch of different ways that they do it. That's just one key form of it. Make everybody just go against you. Even if you're broke out here and you're on the page, most of the people out here are Christians or the new thing is Hebrew, right? If you say you're an atheist or you start talking about science or anything around some black people out here, people look at you like you're crazy because it's outside of the norm of what's been politicized.
I got another question, Sean. Saying Gambia, right? Is atheism practice out there, or is it like punishable? Like,
man, to be honest with you, when you're dealing with the Gambia, you got the Siri, you got the Willow, and they all Muslims, bro. All Muslims. You know what I mean?
If somebody was to take an atheist stand, would that be punishable, like by law?
Maybe in the Gambia.
No.
Maybe
I'm not gonna say that because they got some traditionalists that don't practice none of that stuff that just stick to cultural ways. So they would see them as atheists, and they're not punished or anything like that. People just stay away from them.
You ever been to Nigeria, Tom?
No.
You know how? Well, I don't know if you know, but I hear how they have jungle law. Do they have that in Gambia?
I haven't heard of them mentioning that type of law that you will hear that in Nigeria, because you know it's so crazy in Nigeria, so they got certain things to deal with certain aspects of it, or you know how accepted it is. But I mean, you can kind of no, I haven't heard of that. That's what you said, but something similar in that. When we get there, we'll probably have more information on it because we should have already been there. But when we get there, and we actually put our boots on the ground. It's going to be more information that we're going to be able to uncover dealing with them in the environment and be able to get out in the city and mingle with everybody on the continent. So,
are you gonna be
I would
open
like,
for not to cut you off, bro? I just want to say something real quick. Are you gonna be open for questions, like in case people have something or idea that you guys might not have as far as while you doing your thing?
yeah, we always open for questions because you know what I mean. We look at it, it's pretty much not only a relationship trip, but it's also a researchable trip for us. So it gives up, you know what I mean? Because think about it, our books are in their libraries. You know what I mean? So at the school. So when we get there, we know there's going to be some type of hype around that. We know people going to come out, want to meet us. You know what I mean? But they're going to have questions for us. We're going to have questions for them. So it's going to be time to build, but it's also going to be time for us to actually do some research. And that's how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it for us to, when we finally get a chance to get there and do what we need to do. You know, we're looking at it as primary research. Find out more about the Gambia. Find out more about how brothers and sisters are feeling in the heat of the moment. Find out more about the cultural loss of identity. Find out more about what we can do to actually improve upon things in the area. You know, we got as a collective, as far as the Kofi Price research team, as a collective, we're looking at other avenues to be able to infiltrate in the Gambia that may be beneficial to us at trying to help establish some other things. So we got to go over there with our right mind, and so we would only be open to certain things. But we got some marks, we got some destinations that we want to get. We want to bring that information back to to America. So.
What's the indigenous tradition over there or system they got in Gambia?
You gotta deal with food. You gotta deal with pot noodle. You know what I mean?
I can't hear you.
Kofi and Ben did a presentation on it on his channel a few months back. You know, I mean, dealing with the indigenous traditions and practices in the area among the Senegambans. So, yeah, fighting rule. I might be saying it wrong. I always do, but yeah.
You also have.
Do you have an idea? What is it based in? Like, what is it based in?
It's just
like to give you a rundown, like
to keep it like simple. Yeah, fighting rule. That's how I spell. But to keep it simple, it's similar to what you see in all West Africa. You know, you have the deities, that actually exemplify certain aspects of nature or the culture. You got ancestral worship and things of that nature. You got earth shrines. You know what I mean? You got all things that make the tradition whole.
What's the major symbol? What's the major symbol? Do you have one?
Huh? The native symbol?
Do you have a major symbol, like, you know what I mean, whether it be the tree or the eagle, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, trees are a big thing, like the Baobab tree. That's in Senegambia, that tree.
That's their thing. Oh, that tree. All right.
Yeah, because you know what I mean. Like when Ben did his thing when he was in Senegal, you know, he went to the tree, right? They honor and worship that tree. You know, they think all the souls of the ancestors are buried in the tree. You know, they got this ritual where they walk around a certain amount of time before they can enter in all of those things. Like, yeah, that's sacred to them.
Yeah, and that's something you're gonna see. That's something you're gonna see at Benin as well with the people practicing voodoo. They got a sacred forest called the Kapase Forest, dedicated to the person who they say founded the tribe. So they got a sacred forest for him, and they got these baobab trees in that forest, and to them, those trees are the reincarnation of their ancestors. So yeah, the trees is big in Africa, especially West Africa.
Right. And you also have a whole other slew of musical, just everything, masks. You got, it's not just one culture or one indigenous. You got things that are bleeding over from even as far east as Ghana and even going into Benin, because you have the mixture of things going on in those forest regions, like from the Ivory Coast going back east. In the Ivory Coast, we call that the Wula, deep in the forest. So it's so much that goes into where you start to see those gray areas where things bleed over. So you're gonna get all of that is viewed going back to the other point of being atheist. Like, yeah, they're gonna look at, because they don't look at djembe as being a part of Islam. They don't look at that, what we see in Coming to America. They don't look at that as part of any of the surahs. That's not in the Quran. But they're gonna, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna do their thing behind that. They don't look at the Sabar drums to play for the Fatruz ceremonies. They don't look at, you know what I mean, all of these different things as a part of Islam. They make the distinction themselves, to your point of how they're gonna mix it in. They're gonna make the distinction themselves. And it's real interesting that, like, not to go too off subject, but with Ifa and or Isheshe, and the difference between that and Santeria. So we'll mix things in for the sake of survival on this hemisphere, the Western hemisphere, in the conditions that we in, and then they mix it in for survival on another note. You see what I'm saying? It's all in how we talk about them only mixing things in. We mix things in over here too.
No, I get it. I was just saying too that I've seen an actually full out atheist group in Africa. I can't remember the name, but I mean they like You know what I'm saying? They ain't playing no games with none of it. Like,
yeah, you got some that don't have a god at all. There are some African groups that just don't have the god complex. They live in the forest. That's it.
No, I'm talking about they deal with atheists the way Ankh do. Ain't no God, none of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta get on that group. I was shocked when I seen, you know what I mean, like that, because they was on the same aspect, like that's hurting us. You know what I'm saying? And they was trying, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, they was like the spiritual traditions are hurting us, and they was on some just like just get rid of all of it, like not just Islam, but like everything. You know what I'm saying? All of it.
Yeah, they've been influenced by their diasporan brother.
Isn't it like that in Tanzania?
Know about that?
Where specifically in Tanzania?
As far as them not believing in the God and not accepting outside influences.
I'm not too sure. I will have to look in to see if they're like that. Like, wasn't the Masi like that, Sutek? Or did they just reject white people?
The Masi rejected.
Yeah, they rejected Christianity, Islam, all that foreign shit.
Yeah.
You might be talking about the Zulu, like I want to say you might be talking about the Zulus.
Yeah, because Shaka was definitely on that no spiritual God shit.
Right.
Yeah, but then he did have some though. He wasn't completely void of it though. He wasn't completely void.
Okay.
Was that story real?
Nowhere.
The whole Shaka Zulu story was real? I thought that was promotion purposes.
No, it's real. I mean, but I think most of the information comes from the two Europeans, but it's real.
So there was actually a Shaka Zulu.
Oh, come on, man. You tripping. Yeah, that is.
Oh, yeah, I mean, hey, look, if I don't know, I don't know. I'm not that type. I'm not a Hebrew.
No, Hebrew. You talking about?
You know, they be acting like they know what they don't know. Like, hey, I ain't
I'm saying like, yeah, Shaka Zulu's real, family. Like, you real. You're real for sure. You're real. Yeah. Because remember, like, even with Shaka Zulu, like, you know, like it was his kind of spiritual thing that kind of had them suffering towards the end, like when his mom died.
Yeah, I remember the movie. I remember the movie good. On my Facebook, that's my name is Marcus Zulu Child.
No, I'm saying, no, I was talking about. I wasn't going with what you were saying. I was talking about. I was just going into the conversation. I was saying like we're talking about the spirituality, right? Because The Europeans really made it seem like Shaka had something to do with his mother's death. According to the European version of the story, you know what I'm saying? And then they went through like a period of he basically had him going like starvation after his mother died. You know what I'm saying?
So when they had tried to turn on him and went to kill him, I mean went to kill his mother, right? So is that why they turned on him and tried to make it seem in the real life version?
You talk about the beginning when he tried to kill his mother. No, I'm talking towards the end. He was starving. You know, he was kind of starving the people.
He didn't allow them to have sex. You couldn't drink milk. Even the cows couldn't mate. You know what I mean? I forget what it's called. It's a long word, though, one of them long Zulu words. But he didn't kill his mother.
No, I said the European. The only really source that we got from that are from those English people.
We have,
yeah. And they was kind of hinted like, you know, he may have had something with his mother's death. That's why he was so grieved about it.
I mean, it's kind of inferred that she died because of the sadness that he brought upon her. She was an older woman, you know what I mean? I never read anything that said that he had something to do with it directly.
No. I never make I'm not making that claim. Don't put that on me. don't put that on me.
I want to know. I ain't never heard.
Yeah. Don't put that. I ain't going down that road. Nope.
Source up.
Exactly.
Wait. Yeah, man. I ran downstairs. I heard y'all when we came back.
But, you know, the Zulu was much different. The Zulu, that was pretty late in the game. You know what I mean?
Very late.
Yeah, that's pretty late in the game with the Zulu. You know what I mean? One thing that movie didn't illustrate is that the Zulu had access to firearms. And more than likely, the Zulu would have been somewhat involved in slave trading in the area as well. Indirectly.
Sonny,
I thought they accumulated the firearm when they started working with the white people that was fighting other white people.
The Dutch, yeah, they started working with the Boers. I mean, it's traded. I mean, it's trade. Europeans trade. You know, you had ivory coming out of the region and cattle. So no, they traded. I mean, not no, but you know, they had trade. You know, but the movie didn't illustrate them having guns at all, and they did.
Let me do this for Sonny.
Hey.
I said, let me do this for you. You see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. Give me a second. I'm gonna show you something. I think this help us all right here. In South Africa.
I get on my laptop. I didn't stream, y'all. Just freeze your screen.
Oh, that's tight.
Africa, you're not here to form the city. And the city, my friends.
Yep. I'm on the Zulu.
I'm talking about the Ndebele people, the Zulus, the Sotus, the Xhosas, and the last one, the Paid people. As you can see, the paintings on the wall represent those 5 ethnic groups that we have here. Starting south, the colorful wall there it represents Amandebele. Can you see Amandebele?
Mandebele.
Yes, my friends, this is South African man. The Ndebele people all the way to Mpumalanga in an area called Guamshak. We call them the artists of Southern Africa. So the reason why we call them the artists of Southern Africa is because of the colorful paintings. And the paintings, my good friends, are done by the Ndebele women. You know, when they are very happy, they use the bright colors. And when they are very sad, they use. It's very beautiful. Huh? And then the second one on top there, that color represents Amazulu. Can you say Amazulu?
Amazulu.
Yeah, we are so the friends, the Zulu people all the way from KwaZulu Natal. We are sons and daughters of the great king, Shaka Zulu.
You hear that?
Have you heard about Shaka Zulu?
Of course.
The great leader. One of the friends today. I will tell him.
I ain't gonna play the whole thing. Just want to take you to where they at culturally.
Now, let me say, ladies, long time ago, they used to sew the hat onto your hair permanently.
What?
Yes, if you take it off, it's a divorce.
Oh my goodness.
So question is, how do they wash their hair?
Right.
How do they sleep at night? If they want to wash their hair, they slaughter a goat or a cow. As you can see the scars on top. You see the scars on top there?
Yes.
They slaughter a goat or a cow. Just to tell the ancestors, my dear, that you are not divorcing your husband. You must wash your hair after that to do what?
Put it back.
They use this one as a nice pillow.
Yes. Real pillow.
So when Ben was down there,
All right.
so when Ben was down here, yo, he made it a point to make sure that he got by here so that he can get this information. But also, you know, he got another video where, you know, we get into evolution and start talking about humanity and all of that. And he went down in them caves. So, you know, both videos are here.
Ben, are you comfortable?
Both videos are here. So
wait, they teach evolution over there too?
Nah, that's what I get ready to say. Nah, you talking about Ben.
nah.
Oh, okay.
No. Sosa. Hold on, don't say that too fast.
I saw when Ben was in the cave, right? When he went, because he went to show Unc. I think Unc was the that cave that Unc was talking about.
Right here. They teach evolution.
No, I'm talking about that guy. Wasn't though. Not that monk.
No. They got no.
Yeah. Yeah.
This another part of the video, right? Because this is what they're talking about right now. So, because he at the museum. In that video, the museum. So you got, I keep forgetting where I'm at. Yeah, it was a year ago. He got another one on his. Yeah, it's 3 videos. So but that dude, he just stick to the culture. So you got the Cradle of Human, you got this one that he uploaded, you got this one, and then this is the other one. These 3 right here. Right. So this one for the this one, of course, they kick it out. This is the one you remember right here. You know what I mean? And they deal with the little clock. I like that right there, though.
That's a real tank. So what does that watch?
Yeah, I like that part right there. But
what time is it?
Hey, I like them skins, them leopard skins, little boy have on. Like, yo.
Oh yeah.
I'll be around the crib. At night. Y'all come, people come over, be like, yo, what's up? Them chilling.
Yeah, with
I'm messing around to go to a function looking like the king of Zamunda up in this one.
Chilling with the leopard skins on, man. They be like,
Pierce said his and her leopards. But nah, man, that's that on that. But yeah, man, I'm gonna shut it down, man. I appreciate everybody enjoying the bill. We kind of rocked out a little bit. That was cool. If y'all didn't check that first video out that we talked about with craziness, y'all gotta check that out. You gotta get into that mindset. It helps you understand the environment of that time a lot better. It puts some icing on the cake. You know what I mean? So I just want to say peace to everybody, man, for tuning in. Everybody joining the panel. Cujo, Sonny, Sosa, always. Peace to y'all. And sure, we're gonna get out, man. I think we might be back though on Kofi Pot side later on today. So stay tuned for that. Peace.
Hey, Shaw, before you go, real quick, let me ask you this. Is there any languages that's an African language that was created outside of Africa?
No.
How do you get a Jewish language that, in order for them to translate it, they have to go to the Germanic text or Aramaic language?
That would be the equivalent of how English is you know, similar to Latin and blah, blah, blah. So it's just the evolution of
But
languages.
English actually comes from Europe, though. So
No,
the
no, no.
languages like the Dramatic Yiddish language started outside of Israel. The Aramaic started outside of Israel with
Now,
different types of
hear
people.
what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying slowly. What I'm saying is how all languages evolve. In some kind of way, they're going to be interrelated to something.
Yeah,
It don't
but
necessarily.
Yiddish is not a Semitic language, and Aramaic is not a Semitic language.
Right, and I'm saying Semitic languages ain't African languages.
But Hebrew is supposed to be a Semitic language.
It is.
How
I'm
do you
not
get
dealing
that?
with stuff.
No, it's just a brain freeze. I got some information on that shit. I just like to clown on it, but I just be throwing that out there on the brain freeze.
Nah, I don't. I reject all of that. I don't even think you know what I mean. Like when you get into the linguistics and all of that, and I know people like to, you know what I mean, argue. Well, the writing script is similar to this script, and you know what I mean. All the correspondence they be doing and all that. Man, I just reject it. I just throw the Matumbo finger up. But
that was a cool part of coming to America too, for the record. That was real cool with Matumbo in there. That was a good ass cameo.
Yeah. So
everybody. Well, thank you for having me.
Log in to KofiPaisaTV.com and get Spears of the Mossy Volume 1 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, from Spears the Pen Volume 2 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, Spiritual Combat Volume 3 by Kofi Paisa Research Team, One Night Before Bed by Any Harek Shun Kalfani, Kalawa's Trip to the Motherland by Kofi Paisa, From Cocaine to Consciousness by Any Harek Shun Kalfani, As I Learn, We All Learn by Kofi Paisa. Also, if you want fresh merch, go to our online store, Family Connect Apparel, and get all the brands. Also, get our 54 deck of quiz and educational cards available now on KofiPaisaTV.com.